What's up, Rocco? Thank you for being the first in-person guest here on the Dattie podcast. I'm really thankful to have you here.
I'm honored to be Dattie's very first in-person interview. This is fantastic.
So let's get to it. You are Motorcycle Santa. You're the guy. You're Motorcycle Santa. You started the charity. How did it happen?
Back in 2015, a couple of days before Christmas, I was checking out the weather, and it was supposed to be 72 degrees. I said, you know what, I'm going to take my bike out and go for a ride. So I was planning on riding that day, and it's Christmas, so I got on Amazon. I was like, I'm going to order a Santa suit and ride around as Santa, and then that turned into ordering an elf suit, and I had my buddy Jay join with me, and turned into let's go to the store, buy some gifts, and hand some stuff out. So it was all kind of last minute. Amazon package came the day before, and then Christmas morning it was raining the night before, but it cleared up first thing in the morning, and we just suited up, dressed as Santa and an elf, and got a bag full of stuff and just started riding around. And it was just a hit. Everybody driving Christmas morning to their families and whatnot, just handing presents out at red lights, and ended up going on the news. It was on, I forget what channel, but it ended up being on the news that night. And that's kind of where it all started.
Wow. So you just thought, hey, I'm just going to buy some presents and then I'm going to hand them out to random kids?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Now, was it because did you see kids without presents, or were you just thinking, I have extra money, I don't have any kids, let me help the less fortunate? Like, what were you kind of
It was more just like a fun, random act, to try to, make people smile. And that's kind of how it started. And then I was bartending at the time, so all my bar regulars like, oh, we saw you on the news handing presents out. Let us know if you do it next year. Like, we'll donate some presents. And that's what kind of turned it into just like a funny idea to like, we could have some charitable drive to it. And so the next year, I did a little toy drive at Catherine Rooney's where I was bartending. So all my bar regulars brought in tons of donations, and I had, I got all these toys now. And AI DuPont Hospital that year, they were down like 80% on their donations that year. It was 2016. So somebody connected me with a nurse there. They're like, hey, we're really hurting on donations, if you have all these extra toys. And that's kind of where the connection was made. And that year is when we, built the sleigh. That's when I was like, you know what? I don't really have room in this bag for all this stuff. So my buddy Matt Edgar, he's a custom welder, so he fabricated a sleigh last minute and hooked up a hitch to my bike. And then that's when it really grew feet and started to run.
Wow. So the sleigh that you said he kind of threw it together, I mean, is that the sleigh you have now? Because that thing's incredible.
No, that one, we had that one for about 3 or 4 years, and then he rebuilt another one with like lights and just kind of put some bells and whistles on it and did it up. Yeah, it's we still have both, but after like 3 years, we redid it and built a bigger one and a better one.
It's badass. And he painted it and all that?
He built that thing entirely from scratch. He bought an axle and some wheels from Harbor Freight and measured and fabricated and cut every single part of both of those sleighs. And actually inside of it, there's a battery. So the lights and everything operate. It has speakers on it. So you can operate your phone. You can put Christmas music on and play. So when we're stationary, set up somewhere, I can have Christmas music playing directly from the sleigh. And it's got a battery on the inside. So it all runs off of that. So it's pretty sweet. It's multi-functional.
I got to ride in it, people.
Yeah.
I'm one of the fortunate people who actually got to ride in it.
Not that many have ridden in it, but it does. I've taken people out on the road and the highway. It's fully safe and ready to rock.
And what about hooking it up to the back of your motorcycle? Now, have you done that before? Like basically towed something?
Not with my motorcycle. That was the first thing I've ever towed with my bike. Okay. And like I said, it was the second year. All my bar regulars were donating, and we were making the connection with the hospital. I'm like, hey, these guys really need toys. And then I'm like, all right, what can we do to add to it, make it more fun? And I'm like, what if I had a life-size sleigh to pull? And then that's where Matt came in last minute. And just like any other motorcycle trailer, it's just a sleigh instead of like a pull-behind camper or something that a lot of people use.
And you actually, because your charity has grown so much, you have so many donations. they don't even fit in the sleigh. Like you have a whole separate trailer.
Yes. Yeah. So, we can only fit so much in the sleigh, that he built a giant, it's like a Santa's sack, and it's a dump trailer that has a top to it. And it looks like a giant, Santa's bag. It's red and it lights up, and we fill the entire thing with toys and donations. And then we have a couple other trucks that follow behind us that carry even more, because we get so many donations now.
And it's amazing. I'm so happy. I just want to back up. So the reason that Rocco's kind of here and that we're talking is because I guess 3 years ago I texted Rocco. I said, "Hey, I know you got." Now in the past I just donated money. I was like, "This is a cool charity. I'll donate some money, right?" And then I'm like, "Hey Rocco, I got this idea for this commercial. You get a hairline right in the back of the sleigh down the road, being ridiculous." And then you hit me up a couple months later. You're like, "Hey Joey, I like the video work. Will you film us for the day?" And so I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'm gonna film you. Yeah, I'm honored. Thank you." And so I got to see everything behind the scenes, and it's so impressive. I mean, who's the guy whose shop you actually go to for all the setup?
That's Matt. Matt Place, my best friend. I've known him my whole life. He has a architectural woodwork, does carpentry, trim work. And so, we don't have a brick and mortar as of now. So he pretty much lets us use his shop and set everything up and organize all the donations. And you saw there's a lot of logistics that go behind it on the actual day of the parade. There's a lot of.
Big headache.
It's
anxiety.
It's stressful. Yeah, once we get done, it's just kind of like, but it's a lot, because we're at the point now. Like I said, the second year we teamed up with the hospital, donated there. And then we got connected with the Ronald McDonald House, which is an awesome organization. Pretty much they house people from out of state that are there getting medical treatment at AI. They have 50 different rooms. So now we're at the point where we have 2 rooms there that we sponsor. Covers the fees for families to stay there. So if they're from out of state, they pretty much stay there for free. And we donate a lot of toys to their Santa room for kids staying there that can. Throughout the year, they have something to pick from, and then we donate to smaller charities as well. Ascending Queens is one where they adopt 25 families during the holidays that are in need. So they come with their Christmas list, and you saw how many, we have so many donations. They have plenty to pick from. My sister works with, special needs kids, so she gets about 20 different families a year, and, we donate to them. So we really help supply these other people that are helping out families on a more personal level with, Christmas presents.
It really is amazing to see. I mean, and these aren't cheap dollar store presents. I mean, they're like real presents, real gifts.
Yeah, there's some good stuff. Yeah. And, I remember last year, 2 years ago, there was at the Ronald McDonald House, I think we had an iPad donated, and we kind of had to put some stuff aside because the kids were going a little nuts. And we kind of hand selected, after talking to the families, like what they wanted. And one little girl in particular really wanted an iPad. And we gave that to her, and she was, made her day. So there's a lot of good donations in there too.
I love seeing it. I get a little choked up just watching, and I'm just filming it, and you're going around you handle it so well, because there's so many moving parts at the same time. And then when it all comes together, when we get to the Ronald McDonald House, we pull up, Elsa's, screaming on the speaker.
Yeah, it's so bizarre, and people don't know what to make of it, because you got a guy dressed like a biker Santa pulling a sleigh, and then behind him is a guy dressed like the Grinch riding a motorcycle, and then Frosty the Snowman's riding, and then there's a giant dump truck with a DJ on top of it with a microphone, and the whole thing is guided by a police escort, so they're stopping the intersections, and people just don't know what to make of it, and that's what I love about it, because that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, but I mean, it seems like every year you're getting more and more donations. Is that right?
Yeah. Every year is getting growing more and more. So,
I know you said so there was the 2 charities were about 20 and 25 families, and that doesn't even count all the stuff you're giving to the Ronald McDonald's House. Do you have a rough idea of, I guess, how many kids are directly impacted by it? Do you have that?
To be honest, it'd be tough to put a number on. Like I said, there's a couple smaller charities that we donate. A lot of families will private message us, like on the Facebook page, and we'll sort through. And there's some people that are in really bad situations and, prideful, and they don't like reaching out. So, we'll connect with those and donate to them on the side. And the Ronald McDonald House, when we do the delivery day, it's all the families that are there, stuck at the hospital during the holidays. It can be anywhere, from 10 families to 20. It really is kind of hit or miss. So when we deliver there, it's kind of good because they get to come out and they're hands-on and they're interactive.
And the kids are high.
And they love it. But then the bulk of what you see, like in the trailer, goes into a room there. So it's a year-round operation there. So, people flying from outside of the country across different states that are staying there, they have that room to pick from. So if the kid had like a surgery or something and they come back to the house, they can go in there and they can pick something out of the room. So they always have stuff year-round for the families, toys and stuff to take for the kids. So it's not just on Christmas, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I saw that because there were so many donations from everybody that after the kids picked plenty of presents, and I like how you let them kind of just have at it.
Yeah. It makes their day, man.
And they're wheeled away in bins. So they take it out of the big dump truck, put them in these bins, and then wheel these huge bins into the Ronald McDonald House, and then give out even more presents.
Yeah. You see the back room is just full of stuff. So,
how does it make you feel that you're able to make such an impact? And I know you're a humble guy, but what's your long-term goal? Like, do you want to see it continue to grow?
Yeah, I mean, like right now, it every year it just gets bigger and more people are reaching out, and we got a hell of a team. Me, Lauren, Pete, Joey, and Matt, and everybody kind of has their own tasks and department that they handle, and the logistics of it is a lot to handle. It gets stressful, but at the end of the day, once we're done the ride, once we get to the Ronald McDonald House, it makes all the stress worth it, and it's just very humbling day.
Yeah.
Does that make?
Yeah, and I like that you brought them up, and I know you're here, but your team does a lot. So can we go over what each? Now Matt does the Grinch. And he does such a phenomenal job at playing the Grinch.
I've never seen anyone go into character. He takes that role very seriously. He compares himself to Jim Carrey, because how when Jim Carrey goes into character, he's sold completely in.
Oh, he's in it. His makeup is perfect.
So Matt always jokes when he's getting his makeup done in the morning, he transforms from Matt into the Grinch, and
he 100% does though.
He steals the show every time, and it's great because he sounds like him, he runs like him, he's got the moves down. He'll watch the movie over and over before and build up, and he knocks it out of the park every time. It's great.
And then what's his that's his business. What's the name of his business? Call that out.
TKI, Taylor Klein Incorporated.
And what can they do for people?
As far as their
what do they sell?
Oh, he does architectural woodwork, finished cabinetry, trim work, pretty much anything along those lines. So
shout out to TKI.
TKI, absolutely.
And what's Lauren's role?
Now, Lauren handles all the social media, a lot of the communications, emailing different points of contact, setting up the logistics, dates, flyers, literature. We have a toy drive at this place at this time. She comes up with the flyer and the ad. She's really good.
She's also
all that. And then, she handles a lot of the groundwork, like communicating with people, like emailing back and forth. She's down in Florida right now, so she's spending I don't know how long she's moving down there, but spending like 6 months. So we've been having our board meetings, and we just do pretty much like a Zoom meeting. So everything that we need from her, she can handle from her laptop, and she does that. That's kind of her business. She does that. She handles social media for different bars and restaurants, and kind of is like a freelance.
She does a great job. She's Elsa, by the way.
And she plays Elsa. Yes, everybody has their character as well.
and Pete, What's Pete's role?
So Pete, he plays Rudolph. He is the original day one. You know, when I did this the very first year in 2015, Jay Knowles was my elf on the back, but Pete actually followed me around with the GoPro in his minivan and made it's. I'll have to show it to you. There's a YouTube link to it. It'd be kind of cool to compare that video toward the one that you guys did this past year. Yeah, I'll send it to you. So he was with me the day one, year one, and he's just built it up with me ever since. You know, been like my right hand man on everything.
That's Pistol Pete, right?
That's Pistol Pete, and he does a lot of running around. He can I curse?
Yeah.
He gets shit done.
Yeah.
You know, hey Pete, we need this, and this, and he got it. Goes, gets it done, comes back. He's really, really organized. He's the man.
And you also and who else is in there?
Joey, who plays Frosty the Snowman.
Okay. And what's his role?
Joey's, I would say, he's more like the driving force. He's kind of always in my ear and our ears saying, hey, we got to do this, and it just gets on everybody, you know, just, you know, kind of works from the shadows. He doesn't like the spotlight or attention, so he's kind of in the background, like telling us what's wrong and what we need to do.
Okay. And
which
I mean, everybody does a great job. Let me ask you this: how did you get DJ Hugh? Isn't he the Sixers DJ or something?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He. Well, I bartended at North Beach, down at the beach, for 6 or 7 summers, and he was like the resident DJ down there. So I've known him a long time. Real good friend. And it was kind of like when we asked you to film it, I pitched him the idea, and it was a no-brainer. He goes, just tell me the date, and I'll free it up. And, you know, December's a busy month for DJ, so he blocks that night off on a night where he probably could have had a better paid gig to do that. So he donates his time to us for it, which he doesn't have to do, and he's more than happy to do it. So
he was awesome,
and he's a great DJ. Yeah, he's really good at mixing the Christmas stuff with like the newer pop stuff.
And to put it in perspective, and we'll pull up a visual, but I mean, they're riding around on a flatbed truck with the DJ booth.
Yeah, literally, we hook up a generator, and the flatbed has the DJ booth, and it has a microphone, so, you know, we can talk and interact and blast music, and like I said, we have the police escort, so we kind of get away with whatever.
Hey, the police escort helps when you're doing charity and you're giving back to the community. I think everybody is happy involved. Now, let's talk about the 5K, which is leading up to. So today is what, October 19th, 2023, and when is the 5K?
It's Saturday, November 25th. It's the Saturday after Thanksgiving. This is our 3rd year doing it. And it's a great weekend to do it because Thanksgiving, everybody's home. People that moved away, they're home visiting their family. They usually stay for the weekend. And it's in Trolley Square in front of Catherine Rooney's. And this year I'm really excited for because we got a lot of new stuff. So it, you know, kicks off in front of Catherine Rooney's. You walk to the park across the street, goes along the Brandywine, but we're kind of having like a nice big after party. I have there's a moon bounce. It's going to be live music. I actually have a petting zoo. I have pony rides, and I have face painting coming as well. Wow. To make it more family oriented, because we noticed last year there's a lot of families that came out. Yeah, a lot of friends with their kids came out. So, you know, we were looking at our notes from last year, and that was one of our goals. We got to make it more family oriented, you know, so when the race is done, you know, little kids that didn't run, they need something to do. So, and all that is included. You can sign up the registration for the race. Or if you're not a runner and you just want to come hang out at the after party, you can buy a wristband for that. And everything's included. The moon bounce, pony rides, face painting. There's a petting zoo. There's going to be an alpaca there. We'll have buffet food on the patio at Rooney's. And then Rooney's will be wide open. So you're more welcome to go in there, have a couple beers in there, get some food in there.
You get a drink ticket too, don't you?
Yes, the runners get a drink ticket. I believe it's 1 or 2 beers. So when you're done the race, you get a complimentary beer. And then you can just mingle, hang out at the party. You know, we'll have food, coffee.
And how much does it cost to donate? I know you can donate more, but what's the minimum cost just to enter the 5K?
For runners, it's $30. That includes the race registration. And everything with the after party, and if just the after party ticket is $20
per person.
And you can check out the website. You can you can do either or on motorcyclesanta.org. If you go to the Instagram page, the link is there. Or you can sign up in person. We'll have open registration the morning of. The race starts at 10. Registration's at 9, so you can show up 9 to 10 and sign up on the spot.
And all you got to do is just go to Trolley Square. You go to Trolley Square, you'll see it. It's all blocked.
Yeah, we will have the street blocked off, and we encourage people to dress up. Last year we had some really, really good outfits, and I know it's tough. It's like Thanksgiving, and then 2 days later you're thinking about Christmas, but it's a short period of time, so we encourage people to dress up. There'll be a prize for best dressed. So the more Christmas attire, the better.
And you were even given prizes to people who completed it in different age brackets.
Yes, we're still working on exactly what the prizes are going to be, but there'll be age group prizes.
It was cool that you recognized it.
Oh yeah. My nephew won one of them.
There was a kid who was like 18 who just blasted by everybody.
Dude, yeah, that was actually Joey. Joey, the Frosty the Snowman. It was his little cousin.
Okay.
And that kid, he blew it out of the water. I couldn't get over it. I forget what his time was, but it was faster than any 5K I ever ran in my life. Yeah. So we got to get him out there too. See if somebody can beat him.
Another thing that I did want to bring up. So in regards to the 5K, if you don't, like, for example, I said I brought my son. If you're not a runner, you can just walk with a wagon or push a stroller. You don't have to be, hey, some marathon. I'm going to go run. I'm going to go running. You don't have to be David Goggins. You can just show up and walk with your family. Yeah, we
encourage that too. And it's scenic. It's right along the Brandywine, so it's a nice walk. And like I said, that's what we noticed last year. There's a lot of families with kids, a lot of walkers as well as runners. So that's why we were trying to focus the after party, giving everybody something to do, to hang around, something the kids and the whole family can do. So, bring the stroller, you can walk it, or if you want to go aggressive and run, there'll be some runners there too. So it's just, kind of a nice all day event.
Yeah. And where can people, in regards to all this money for the 5K, ultimately gets donated to the Motorcycle Santa charity? You use it?
Yes. Yeah, it's all proceeds for the charity.
And it is a tax write-off technically, right?
It is.
Or if whatever donation you make, you can pay more than the $30. If you want to make a larger donation, it is a tax write-off.
Yep, and you can do that online there, and we send out tax write-off templates at the end of the year for anybody that requests them.
Okay. And then what if people want to donate presents? Are they allowed to do that? How's that work?
The day of the 5K, it's an option. Most people kind of wait till, because we have so many events going, into December, closer to the ride, that not that many people donate to the 5K. But,
what are the other events? So, like, if, hey, I want to buy a few presents, where do I drop them off to make sure that Motorcycle Santa gets?
That's what we're working on right now, kind of organizing. The previous years, we did a lot of like bar events, like happy hours and stuff like that. I don't know if we're going to be doing that many this year. I know our biggest one is the toy drive at Catherine Rooney's, which we're still figuring out the date for that. It might be the week of or the week after the ride, but Detro was my good friend. He passed away not that long ago, but he was a huge supporter of the charity, and he did a toy drive at Catherine Rooney's and donated to us. So after he passed, we wanted to keep that going, and Detroit's toy drive in his memory. So we're kind of going to double down on that night and try to make that the bulk of the donations. And instead of doing a lot of different smaller bar events, just kind of double down on this one, and which is at Catherine Rooney's. I don't have the exact date for that yet. Okay. But that's probably the best opportunity to donate.
That's beautiful. You guys are doing that, keeping that in his memory and keeping it going.
Oh yeah. We just had a memorial golf tournament for him 2 weeks ago. That this was the third annual, and it was a hit.
Very cool.
So,
okay, so then make sure if you want to donate to Motorcycle Santa, if anybody listening to this or watching this, donate to Motorcycle Santa. It's going towards a good cause. Help them out. It's amazing. The kids love it. If you haven't seen it, come out, check out the event, do the 5K. If you don't want to do the 5K and you don't want to do the party, you can still go online and you can still donate.
Yeah. And I guess I'll while we're still on the subject, just a little back on like the Ronald McDonald House, what they kind of do. I touched on it earlier, but just to be a little more specific, they kind of serve as like a home away from home for like, because we meet all the families every year. I mean, there's people from outside of the state, outside of the country.
Which is crazy, by the way, that people come outside of the country.
Yeah, I didn't realize how top notch of a hospital AI DuPont was until we started working with them. And I mean, it's a world renowned hospital, and people come for care there from all over the place. And, you know, a lot of them don't have any connections here, obviously. So the Ronald McDonald House houses them. They cook dinner for them. They help with transportation to and from the hospital. It's just an amazing organization. So, like, just one example, last year, one of the families that we met, I don't know if you remember, but it was a little boy, I think it was about 6, but they were from Afghanistan, and they had just escaped leaving the country. And I think the boy was about 6, and he was shot, came through at the back and through his cheek, so he had a big scar on his cheek. And so they barely made it out of their country, and the little boy got shot. They were here for 6 months. You know, they got no family, no money, nothing. You know, they were fleeing their country and staying at the Ronald McDonald House. And that kid was tickled pink that day. I don't even remember. We got some.
I didn't know what had happened to him. I knew.
Yeah, they were only here for about 6 months, and he was shot pretty bad in the face, and so he was. You know, luckily he was well. I think he would maybe lost an eye or something. Not that matters, but you know, it just, they were, you know, could you imagine going to a different country where you have no friends, no family, no money, fleeing, you know, whatever life that they had there.
The kid just gets shot.
And so, yeah, but just, you know, seeing how happy that kid was, you know, we gave him trash bags. He was filling them up with toys, and the mom, you know, we gave her all kinds of stuff that she took back to the room because, you know, they had nothing. But just seeing those kids being able to forget about what they had going on just in that moment is, you know, what it's all about. And it makes all the work and the stress leading up to it and the logistics, it makes it all worth it. And then, you know, you meet families like that, and then you go back into the reality and you got people complaining about the dumbest shit. And it's just like, it humbles you, man. It really does.
I agree. I mean, just be grateful that we're here, and it's so cool that you're doing it, because people will sit there and complain about irrelevant things, not thinking that, hey, you know, my life could be much worse. I could be fleeing Afghanistan, you know, and have a child that's getting shot. Can you imagine this? Your 6-year-old son getting shot when you're leaving your country, and now you're going to the United States. Their English wasn't that great, you know?
Yeah,
they're still learning. They don't really know much. They obviously don't have any money. I just think, I mean, and the fact that you were able to provide, you know, a sense of entertainment and relief, and just give the kid a smile, because this kid was ecstatic. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, there's a good picture of him picking through the sleigh, and he was just tickled pink. And here's the thing, that was just one night that we went there, and I'm like, the Ronald McDonald House has people and families in these situations year round, and from all over. And, you know, and you can, you know, people listening, you can donate to them directly. They also offer, you know, they're always looking for people to cook dinner. You know, you can donate your time helping cook dinner at the house for the families. And it's like I said, that was one night that we were there, and X amount of families that we met. And, you know, it's year round. There's just constantly families in and out staying there in these situations. And like I said, it's just really humbling after we leave there.
I agree. I mean, it's incredible. And how does, you might not know this, but I'm going to ask anyway. Do you know how, like, these families get qualified or get found through the Ronald McDonald House? Do they contact the Ronald McDonald House? How does that work?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I do know, I don't know how many Ronald McDonald Houses there are, but there's a good amount of them around the country, and they're all located right next to like major hospitals. I don't know if they have like qualifications where, you know, depending on your situation in order to stay there. I don't think they do. But like I said, part of what we donate, you know, the room for the year, we have 2 rooms. It's about a $5,000 donation per room, and we donate 10 grand each year, and it covers 2 rooms. And so the families that are staying there, I think they're asked to pay like a small fee, but most of them can't. And so, it's kind of covers the cost for all that. So people that don't have the money to be able to pay whatever the fee is, it's,
And they're staying in these rooms because their kids are getting treatment for cancer, other various ailments, injuries.
Yeah, so essentially, it's like a home away from home. So it's not just the room. If you got the tour of the inside, they have, the kitchen, they cook dinner for them every night, but they have, they have a library, they have a playground, they have, pretty much whatever they have to make it feel like they're at home.
Yeah. It's really nice in there. I mean, it looks, on the outside to me, it looks like a little White House or like a mini mansion.
Yeah, I would have.
Like really homey.
Yeah, getting a tour in there was really cool. They have a movie theater, like they have a movie room, so they can watch movies. I got a little bit of everything there. So
to take the kids' minds off of.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they're straight up living there.
Yeah, some of those, some families are there for a couple weeks at a time. Yeah. Talking to some of the staff there, some of those people are there for months at a time, even up to a year. Yeah. Come and go. Some people have been there more than once, but a couple of sometimes they're there for 6, 7, 8 months, living there because whatever the situation is, if it's an accident or rare disease, but it requires them to be there at the hospital getting treatment. So some people are there for a really long time.
Yeah.
And some of the other stuff we donate aside of the toys is, they take household items like toiletry items, toothpaste, toothbrushes, stuff like that, just, disposables like that for the families to use. So, they don't have to go buy the basics.
Yeah. Amazing. Thanks so much for doing all that, Rocco. I mean, it's incredible. It really is touching. It really is a great charity. It's amazing. So
thank you. Yeah, and it's fun. People like to participate not only because they're doing good, but it's got a fun spin to it. You get to dress up and ride around on a motorcycle and do good charity work. So it's a good mix.
Do you have the date of the actual event when we're going to the Ronald McDonald House?
I'm pretty certain it's the 15th, Friday, December 15th. We try to go that Friday because a lot of the families, they're there during the week and then they'll go home for the weekend and come back. So we catch them on Friday before some of the families leave for the weekend. Yeah. And the next Friday is a little bit too close to Christmas, so we're doing it the 15th this year.
Okay. That's amazing. Donate. If you can afford it, please donate. This is Motorcycle Santa. I want to switch it up now. Speaking of 5Ks, you did a triathlon.
I did.
A couple years ago.
A couple of them.
And you didn't just do a triathlon just like a regular person. There was a strong reason why you wanted to do the triathlon because something that had happened to you. Do you want to go into that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So first of all, I guess build up what happened. You have bones, leg operations, all these different things going on. What is it?
I guess start from the beginning. I guess it was right around the time I started charity. It was like 2015, 2016. I just started getting a weird pain in my right knee for about a year, and it was just getting worse and worse. Couldn't get it figured out, PT, and I didn't really pay that much attention to it because I'm like, it's just a sore knee. I was really active, and I just kind of ignored it. And then I finally got an MRI done by a doctor local to here, and he was diagnosed me with avascular necrosis. Pretty much, I had dead bone in my knee. He's like, your bone's dying for whatever reason. And I honestly, at the time, I didn't think much of it. I'm like, all right, well, what's the solution? And, he said, we can try this where they drill little holes in the dead bone. It'll revascularize and regrow. So I didn't pay much mind to it. I'm like, whatever, I need knee surgery. I got some dead cartilage or bone in my knee. So I had a surgery where he went in and drilled tiny holes into the dead bone, tried to get it to revascularize, and 6 to 8 months later, nothing changed. So he went in and did the same surgery, but it's called AccuFill. It's like a cement material where he filled the holes in with that. And I had both of those surgeries within a year, and nothing got better. I still had pain in my knee. So I'm like, all right, 2 surgeries later. And then I just kind of dealt with it for a while, and then it started getting worse. And then I started feeling it in my other knee, and then I started feeling it in my hips. So then I was like, all right, something's going on. And that's when I went up to Penn and found a really good doctor up there. And the doctor I had down here was great. He was just straight up, I said, hey, I've never dealt with this. No one in my practice has dealt with this. We're going to try a couple surgeries. And then when they didn't work, he said, hey, I recommend you going elsewhere, somebody who has some expertise and background, because we can't, honestly give you a direction on it. So I went up to Penn, got MRIs done of everything, and I had it in all 4 of my joints. Pretty much my bone was dying due to a lack of blood supply, and they couldn't really figure out why. And that was kind of when it all hit me, like, all right, this is...
So you just weren't taking it that serious. You were like, okay, we're going to fix it. This can't be that. I mean, because how old were you when you found this out?
It was mid-20s. Or actually, no, I was like 27, 28.
So you were just
late
thinking,
20s.
Hey, I just, I got some knee pain. They're going to fix me up real quick. They drill holes. I mean, the sound of getting holes drilled into my knee just sounds terrible, to be honest.
Yeah.
And were they hoping that bone would just regrow, so they drill it and then your bone would just grow back?
Essentially, yeah. It would revascularize the area.
Type stuff in there?
Yes, yeah. That was, the cement was kind of just hold it up, I guess, buying me time. Like I said, I really wasn't paying much attention to it back then, because I was like, knee surgery, I'll heal up, I'll be fine. And then once I got that appointment at Penn, and that's when it was like, it all hit me. I was like, oh, this is big.
Yeah.
And then I started researching into it and seeing, it was so rare. And I found a group on Facebook. And then I was just talking to people from all around the world that had it. And, these people, most of them get total joint replacements. They're disabled. They're, wheelchairs, walking with crutches because their bones dying. And I'm like, oh man, this is more than just a knee injury. Yeah.
Is it isolated to just your knee?
Just your joints. So it's like the hard to reach, the very corners of your joints where you have your cartilage. There's some hard to reach areas where the blood doesn't always get to, because the blood vessels, like the veins, are much more smaller. So it's harder to get blood there. So that's the main, it can occur anywhere. People get it in the jaw, you can get it all over, but it's mainly your hips and your knees, your fib, tib, and, the ball of your hips is where most people get it at.
And so so you find out, hey, fuck, this is serious. It's not healing up. What do you do next?
So whenever people ask me about this, I try to simplify it, but it's kind of complicated, because I had
very scientific.
No, just yeah, well, it is, but the sequence. So that was avascular necrosis. And then I also had, I don't know if you and I have ever talked about thoracic outlet syndrome.
I don't know what that is.
So I know I could talk for hours on it, but so pretty much it was another condition where your top rib and your collarbone, you have a vein, an artery, and a band of nerves that travel through. It's, it's right here. And when I was like early 20s, like I think it was 22, so to kind of backtrack before that, because it's kind of important, I guess. I was in the military at the time. I was actually signed up for a deployment, and I was like a month away from activating for training to go off on a deployment. And I had this numbness in my arm and this tingling. It was going on for a while. And I kept seeing back doctors, and they're like, no, your spine's fine. No nerves are compressed. And I just, same deal. I was ignoring it. And this was before the knee thing, but it's kind of important. So then I saw a vascular doctor who did a test and saw that my vein was completely closed. The blood flow was completely blocked off in my arm. And they're like, we need to decompress that immediately, because you're at risk to get a blood clot. And you did that while you were in the Marine? This was while I was in the military. So I got yanked from the deployment, and they're like, you need to get surgery right away. So 2 weeks later, I had surgery where they went in and they cut the rib out. You can see the one scar there, and then I have one there. So where they took the top rib out to open up the area to decompress it. But I dealt with it for so long that it stayed compressed. And then they had to do another surgery where they went in and with a catheter and ballooned the vein open and restored blood flow. So that lasted for like a couple months. Everything was good to go. And then
you had full mobility on your shoulder and all that?
Afterwards, yeah, everything felt good. And the numbness went away, the tingling. I'm like, all right, I'm fixed. And then later on that year, it happened on the other side. So they went in and they did the same thing. So within a year, I had 2 ribs removed and the angioplasty, which is when they restored, open up the vein. And I ended up getting discharged from the military medically because I was out for so long. And
serious.
Yeah. So they're like, we're medically discharging you. So that
plays a mental and emotional toll on you.
Yeah. So I had those surgeries all within a year. There's 3 of them total. So I'm like, all right, that was a weird year. That was a nightmare. I'm out of the military now. I had 2 ribs taken out. I'm good to go now. Like, what's the next step? And then the reason I mention all that is because when my knee and my hip stuff started, I started getting symptoms again with the TOS. Okay. So I actually had the doctor went back in and he took more rib out and more scar tissue. I got that big scar there. It's from that one. So when it came back the second time, it was the same time that my hips and my knees were getting diagnosed. So it was like a huge whirlwind where my vascular doctor was like, hey, your veins closed. We got to go back in and take more rib out. And then this doctor was like, hey, your bone's dying. We need to fix this or you're going to need total joint replacement. So I was like, that's when it all like hit me like, holy shit, like I got a lot of shit going on. And that's what kind of started, the downhill trend.
You're in your 20s and you're here.
In my 20s, yeah. So,
you're bartending.
Yeah, so I'm like literally having to pick. I'm like, which surgery is more important? Which one do I get done? So, I had the rib removal done again. And then later in the year I went and I had, so up to that point I had 4 surgeries on this. I already had 2 on my knee and the worst had just started to come as when he said it's in your hips and your other knee. And that's when things just really started getting bad.
Jesus. I mean, the emotional and mental toll that would take on a person. And let me ask this real quick. So because you got the medical discharge from the Marines, do you get medical insurance from them? Because I mean, this has to add up.
Expensive. That's another rabbit hole, but they didn't do the paperwork right when they discharged me, and I didn't really realize it at the time because I was young and I was worried about what was going on. So they're like, sign here. So the way I was discharged, I don't think was handled the right way because I didn't, they had no medical, nothing like that. No. So, but that's a different story.
Yeah. We don't have to go. I'm just curious because that's got to add up.
Yeah, no, it did. Yeah, it.
And if you're a bartender, you're probably offered insurance, but most young people are like, need that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I was, and bartending I was fortunate because it was the only gig I could have where like I could work for a few months and then I was down for surgery and then they would take me back and let me work, save some money up. But pretty much, I don't want to get too off track, talk about the triathlon. So I'm in like my late 20s. I already had, the 3 surgeries up here, 2 on my knee. And then I go to Penn and, he's like, it's in both of your knees and it's in both of your hips. So that's when I had, the big surgeries with like the stem cells and the cadaver bone. I don't know. You want to go into detail?
Yeah. So you did like, what's that? Like a bone marrow?
Yeah. So, my right knee, pretty much what he went in. My right knee was the worst.
You went to Ohio?
Not yet. I'm still at Penn. So at this point, I'm in constant pain all day. I wake up in the morning, I ibuprofen next to my bed. I eat 4 or 5 of them, wait 20 minutes, get up. Literally I'm limping. People were making fun of me because I had a limp and they had no idea what the hell was going on. And I was just in pain 24/7, like throbbing, my knees throbbing, my hips throbbing, taking away my mobility. I'm behind the bar. I literally if you look at videos like from that time period and just me walking and like playing around, like I'm just limping. So by the time I found this doctor at Penn, who's phenomenal, I just happened to be, 30 minutes south of Penn, and they had a specialist there who had tons of experience with it. So by the time I got to him, my right knee was like collapsed, like the corner of my femur was just a huge cavity of dead bone. And so that's why I was walking so bad with the limp. So he went in and pretty much cut out the whole section of dead bone. Instead of drilling the holes, he cut the whole section out, matched it with a cadaver plug from cadaver bone. And he said if it was any bigger, he would have had to do a knee replacement. But it was just the right size where he was able to cut a plug from the cadaver bone, plug that into where the dead bone was on the bottom of my femur. And I was really bow-legged, and which contributed to it. And so they did an osteotomy where they pretty much cut a wedge in your fibula, straighten your leg out, and then resecure it with anchors. So he did all that in one shot and pretty much cut my leg. It was like a 20-inch incision, and did all that in one shot. And then I healed up from that. And then I went back probably 6 to 8 months later to do the hips. And he did both hips at the same time. And pretty much what he did there is he went in and he took bone marrow out of my iliac crest. I don't think I'm saying that right, but took stem cells out and drilled holes into my hip, the balls of my hip, kind of like what the original doctor did on my knee. But he took the stem cells and all the holes that he drilled, he injected the stem cells into the dead area. So it's actually kind of cool. You can see on my MRIs the dead bone, and then 6, 8, 10, and 12 months after, when they did imaging, you can see the bone start to regrow.
Oh, so it did.
Yeah, it not only stopped the progression, but it regrew some of the cartilage and healed up all the areas of dead bone. And he did both of those at the same time. And then, I think 6 to 8 months later, this is when I went to Cleveland. So that doctor ended up going out to Cleveland, to the Cleveland Clinic. And so my right knee, pretty much the same surgeries, but I had to fly out to Cleveland and have him do that. And then Matt Place ended up driving me back.
Can I pause real quick?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is they had to literally cut off part of your bone and then replace it with another person's bone, a cadaver bone, and put it into your bone, hoping that it's going to all merge together?
Essentially, yes. Yeah, there was, he said there's a risk that the bone doesn't take.
And your body could reject it.
Your body could reject it. So, they kept a really close eye on that.
Do they have painkiller? Because I've heard there's not really much painkiller you could do for that type of...
And that's the thing is it's like a whole different kind of pain. Like dead bone is different from any other pain I've ever felt, because it's your skeleton, it's your structure, your entire body, and when it's dying and dead, it's a terrible throbbing pain. And the post surgery was rough. It was really, really painful, man. It sucked. Terrible. It was terrible.
How long were you down for?
The biggest one was the cadaver bone one. I mean, that I wasn't walking for, I was on crutches, I think, up to 6 months.
Did you have somebody taking care of it?
Yeah, and so like I said, it really wreaked havoc on my life because I was living in Pike Creek at the time. I had to move back in with my parents because I had my dog. I had nobody to take care of the dog. I had to walk the dog. I needed a caretaker, essentially.
Yeah, for real.
So, I'm in my late 20s, moving back in with my parents. All of my friends are, out buying houses and starting families and moving on with their life. And
you're getting serious surgery. And
yeah. And so luckily, I have a really, really good family. We're all really close. My sisters, my mom, my dad. Took care of me pretty much, helped me every day with my rehab, getting up, moving around, putting my shoes on, taking care of the dog. So I'm fortunate that I have a great family that was a great support system for me to lean on, because I don't know what I would have done otherwise.
And so you get all of that done. You get all these surgeries. I don't know how many surgeries. That was a lot of surgeries.
Yeah, it was like 9 or 10, I think, up to that point. And
so you're starting to heal. And you're like, you know what? This could happen again. I'm gonna fucking run a triathlon. Is that kind of what
Yeah. So, pretty much, I had these two really rare diseases that just happen to happen at the same time. And it's just,
and they don't know what caused it?
No, the only red flag with the AVN, when they did my blood, I had really high inflammation in my blood, like my triglycerides were high.
Okay.
And, they thought I had like a blood disorder. Nothing in particular though, it just was a bad luck of the draw essentially. And I just happened to have both of these conditions happen at the same time. And it was just, I was just dealt a bad hand, essentially. Nothing you can do about it. So
it's no one's fault. It's just
no, yeah, it's just yep. And like the thoracic outlet was just a structural thing. They're like, hey, your top ribs, they could have had calcium deposits on them, or they grow a little bit bigger than they should have, and just the way your body was structured, that space was a lot more narrow than it should have been. And then as you got older, it just started to impinge on the blood vessels, and it's just nothing you can do really. So at that point, it was like 3 or 4 years where I just, surgery, heal up, work for a couple months, schedule another surgery, heal up, work for a couple of months. 3 years in a row when we did the charity ride, like I had surgery scheduled right after the ride. So we do the ride end of December, and then I went and had surgery, and then I would recover in the winter months. And going into the springtime, I would be healed up, and then I'd bartend on the beach, save some money up, Santa, surgery. So it was like that pattern for 3 or 4 years. So by the end of it, I was so frustrated and pissed off and angry. I was just like,
why me?
Yeah, like I felt like I got robbed of the vital years of my 20s. So
you did.
Yeah. So for the first time, in a few years, I'm like, I don't have any surgery schedules, because every time I went into a surgery, I knew like, all right, I'm going to get this one done, heal up, work. And then next year I'll get this one done, And for the first time, I was like, I don't have anything on the horizon. If I heal up good, like I kind of have a clean slate for a while. What are you going to do? And so I was literally sitting in my room at my parents' on my laptop, just looking stuff up. And I came across a 3-minute video on YouTube of an Ironman. And I was like, holy shit, this is badass. 2.4 mile swim. I couldn't swim. It was a 112 mile bike. I'd never ridden a road bike before. And then a marathon at the end. I'm like, I used to be a runner, so I'm like, the running I'm good with. And I just started looking them up, and then I was thinking about it for a while, and thinking about it, and then looking it up, and then I was in the pool doing rehab on my knee after one of the surgeries, and I said, let me try swimming. And I was like, I swam a little bit, and then I just kept thinking about it, and then I literally was like, you know what, fuck it. I was like, I have surgery December of 2018. And there's an Ironman in where was it at? I'm sorry, Tempe, Arizona, November the following year. So 11 months later. Wow. And I was like, I'm just going to sign up. And I surgery in December. Like I should be walking within 3 months, January, February, March. I was like, I could probably start training like the bike maybe and swim. I really didn't know. I just signed up and just went at it.
So you weren't sure if you were going to complete your PT. You weren't sure if you're going to be able. First of all, swimming that much, that's a lot of fucking swimming. But the biking, 112 miles, that's a lot of biking. And the running alone is 26 miles. That's a lot. And you got 9 surgeries.
Yeah, and it was less than a year after my last knee surgery. So I remember talking to my surgeon. I'm like, hey, like realistically, he's like, well, you'll be on crutches for about 3 months. He goes, after that, you can probably start doing the elliptical, lightweight bearing. He goes, and stationary bike, swimming, you can do that fine. And so that's kind of what I did. I had it end of December 2018, and then January, February, March, I rehabbed. And then April's when I guess I started, training. So I really only had April, May, June, July, August, like 7 months to train.
Incredible. And
I had zero experience. I'd never was a swimmer.
Where swim at?
At DFIT, right down here. So I hired a trainer down the beach, a triathlon trainer, Bruce Clayton. Very
Bruce.
Bruce is the man. I actually met with him the day after I got off crutches, I'm like, I'm going to meet this guy. I have zero triathlon experience. Not only do I want to do a triathlon, but I want to do the hardest and the longest. I want to do a full Ironman. And I just had surgery a couple months ago, and he has no idea any of this. I'm like, so if I show up on crutches, he's going to laugh at me. So I scheduled to meet him the day after I got off crutches so I could actually walk to see him. And we met, and I pretty much, you know, he said, to be honest with you, he goes, beginning, I was like, you know, I need a full year with a normal, healthy person with triathlon experience to get ready for this race. This guy has no experience. He just had surgery, and he's only got 7 months. And he goes, you know, in the beginning, he goes, I would have said no way. He goes, but after talking to you and just seeing you were just set on doing it, he goes, I think you can do it. And so he really, really helped me because I had no experience. I knew nothing about anything. And he was a world of knowledge and helped me train and prepare for it. And so I started with him in April.
What was the hardest part of your training, I guess you could say? So, I mean, the swim, that's very difficult. Because I feel like for me personally, it would be the run, but you're saying you thought that would be the easiest for you.
I thought that because it was the only thing I had experience in them. I was like, you know, I had run Delaware Marathon before, so I had run a marathon. We did the Delaware Marathon, so I ran a marathon before, but like I never swam, and I've never ridden a road bike. Like I just
for a fucking 112 miles.
Yeah, I didn't care. One of the biggest quotes I read was, "When your why is strong enough, the how becomes easy." Yeah. And my why was, I could have done anything. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure it out. Yeah. And so that's how I started. I would go on the stationary bike. I started with pedaling on that. And then I would do the elliptical, and I did a few laps in the pool. And after a few weeks, and my doctor was like, all right, you can do some weight bearing, get on the treadmill. So then I went to light jogging on the treadmill. And then I eventually bought a road bike, and then we started getting some miles in on that, and just slowly every week, just add a little bit, and going to PT, and just kind of took my time going into it. And then that summer, I just trained my ass off and got real strict with my diet, you know, cut out drinking, no beer, nothing, and was real strict with my diet, and just went to town and just busted my ass and got it done.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. And where did you do the biking? I mean, did you actually do so during your training? I mean, did you actually do 112 miles like during one day?
The longest.
I'm just gonna do 112 miles.
No, the longest I did was 100.
Okay.
Was 100. So pretty much I did all my swimming at DFit because they have a pool there.
And what's the time for that, real quick? Like, do you have to be under a certain amount of time to?
Yeah, there's I think you have 2 hours and 20 minutes for the swim time.
Okay. What's considered a fast time?
I mean, some of these like professional athletes are doing it in 50 minutes, swimming 2.4 miles. Decent average time is like maybe an hour 20, hour and a half. And then you have a total of 2 hours and 20 minutes, I think, to get it all done.
Okay. And then you go from the swim to the bike?
Yeah, you transition into the bike. I think you have like 7 or 8 hours for the bike. Okay. But you have a thing on your ankle, so your individual time is being tracked. So, if you finish the swim an hour early, that buys you an hour on the bike. If you get the swim and the bike done early, that buys you more time on the run.
So it's the whole thing.
So it's the whole thing. Cumulatively, you have 17 hours. Okay. But each course has its individual time. But the overall thing, you have 17 hours total.
And real quick, when you're swimming, did anybody pass out or almost drown? They had to save, and were you going past? Because it looks crazy in the beginning when everyone's like, da, 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 da. It's like, are you getting hit? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That I'll never forget that day, that morning, because. To kind of put it in perspective, I had all these surgeries, traveling to Cleveland, all back and forth. And, I just went through a lot of shit. And then I busted my ass training. And that morning I just remember, I'm like, man, I've been through so much shit. And what am I doing? I had no experience. And just getting into that water, there's I think 2,500 other people. And I was just like, all right, all these years of all this bullshit and all the hard work I put in, I'm like, it all comes down to today. And I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. I said, but I'm going to get in that water. I'm going to give it my best. And I just hopped in the water, and it was freaking chaos because, like you said, it was people grabbing your ankles. Everybody's swimming at the same time. You're getting hit. You're getting punched. You know, you just can't find your space in there.
It looks
and
chaotic.
it's chaotic. First few hundred yards is absolutely chaotic. Yeah. And so I ended up just kind of going on the outside a little bit, and I found my pace, and I just, you know, had my sights on the bridge, and I just went and just kind of steered away from everybody.
Was it a straight shot? Did they make you turn or anything?
Yeah, it was a straight shot down and back.
Okay.
One lap, one big lap.
Going parallel to the beach.
So this one was in Arizona, and it was in Tempe Lake, which kind of like more of a canal. It's like a straight shot, and has a couple footbridges that go over it. So it was down and back. So it was down 1.1, back 1.1.
And they follow you in boats and stuff just in case people.
Yeah, they get people in kayaks, you know, checking on you, making sure you're okay, and you're allowed to stop. But if you touch the kayaks or hold on, then they'll pull you. So you can't have any outside assistance. Yeah.
I mean, it's super impressive that you've done this. I mean, it really is. And so you do the swim. Now you're on the bike. Now, what was the hardest part for you? I mean, does your butt hurt?
Getting out of the swim, I'm like, I just remember like my face is beat red, the adrenaline, and it's like, I didn't know if I was going to finish it or not. So I remember getting out of the swim and just like looking around, and I'm like, holy shit, like I just did that. And then it started sinking in. I'm like, I might pull this off. And I'm like, I'm feeling good. All my friends were there. I had a hell of a support team that came out, and then they're screaming, you know, cheering me on. And I was just like, you know, the swim was my scariest part because it was my weakest. And I'm like, if I can get through that, you know, I'm on land. The rest is just mental. So, you know, transition, you rip your wetsuit off, get on the bike, and then, you know, that's the longest part of the day, you know, 112 miles, no phone, no music. You're just in your head.
With that part drives me crazy. Like, it's like they don't let you listen to anything.
You can't have nothing. And, you know, then there's parts in that race where you're with other people, but most of it, you know, it's so long. You're just patches of miles and miles where you're by yourself, and you don't, you know, somebody might pass you might pass somebody, but you're just following the cones and the markers, and you're just in your head talking to yourself. And, you know,
focused.
Yeah, I had so much shit from the last, you know, years of my life. I was just sorting through it all, going through everything, and I just spent, you know, 7 hours in my own head.
Yeah. Did you get the, you know, there's a runner's high, but did you get like a rider's high, like riding your bike?
So the bike, it's so long that you go in and out, where like you go through periods where you feel good and you're like, oh, and then you dip, and then you get real slow and then sluggish, and you're like, man, I can't do this. And it's like, oh, I'm only 40 miles in. I still have 60 miles to go. And you just push through it, and you go in and out. So it's like a runner's high, but then a slump, and then you go in and out of that several times. And then once you get to like, I was at mile like 80 or 90, where I was like, all right, like I might do this. I might finish this. And then you know, the last 10 miles, I got a kind of a second wind and pedaled hard, and I got done the bike, and then I was like, all right, it's all on foot. All I got to do is run. Like I just run from here. And
well, you say just run, but I mean that's a lot.
Yeah, so I my goal on the run, because if you do a good time on the swim and the bike, you can buy yourself enough time where you can walk a good part of it. But at that point, your body's depleted. You got no energy. You're completely shot. You know, you've been doing this for 12 hours, and you still have to go for another marathon. So people run, walk, and just kind of keep an eye on the time. But my goal was like, I didn't want to walk any of it. So I ran the entire run. And at the very end, mile 25, I remember going into the bathroom, you know, because they got porta johns along the way, and I took a piss, and I came out of it, and I had nothing. I was just completely depleted. I was like, felt like a corpse. And I came out, and I started walking a little bit for the first time. I'm like, whatever, like, and you're down to your last mile at that point. And I remember there's this little Italian guy that was kind of running with me at the end, and I was telling him, I'm like, hey, I don't want to walk. I got to run the whole thing. It's my goal. And he saw me walking, and he yelled at me. He goes, hey, you got one more mile left. He goes, finish strong. And I was like, shit. And I just started running again. And then it all, crossing that finish line still to this day is the best moment of my life. And I can't even put into words how I felt, but coming around that finish line, but it was incredible.
Yeah,
I was like, man,
I saw
I fucking did it. Like,
I mean, it is. You should be proud. I mean, it was incredible. It is incredible that you did. I mean, and on top of it, with all the surgeries, all the other crazy shit that happened to you, to complete a triathlon, and with minimal. I mean, I say minimal train. Like 7 months is really not that much time.
yeah, like I said, my trainer was like, I usually need a full year of somebody who's healthy and has triathlon experience. But like I said, when your why strong enough, the how becomes easy. And
your why? What can you tell us your why? What were you telling yourself in your head?
just like all the shit I was diagnosed with and the surgeries and having to move back in and,
You want to prove that you could
being knocked on my ass. I'm like, I can't help any of that. Like, I was dealt a bad hand, nothing you can do about it. People will sit around and moan and complain and the woe is me mentality. And I can't stand that. I'm like, all right, can't help what happened to me. What am I going to do about it? Am I going to just cry for attention and woe is me and like I can't do this and that? Feel so exactly. I'm like, no. I'm going to fight back. I'm going to push back. I'm like, all right, got clearance from my doctor. Like, at this point, you can start slowly easing into it. He goes, it's going to be hard, but you're not going to hurt anything structurally. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to fight back, and it's just a mind game from here. And it was kind of like my push back, like getting punched nonstop so many times. I had to come back and just start swinging back, and that's kind of was like what that represented to me. It was
and you did. What about your breathing, right? So you're talking about a lot of it's on your mind, right? It's a mind game, but it's also a lot of physical, right? Your feet. I mean, anybody who's walked a couple miles, sometimes your feet hurt. So how'd you deal with that? Like the breathing technique and all that sort of thing. What was your breathing technique during the run, or even the bike?
To be honest, I didn't really have much of a technique with the breathing. Yeah. I think the biggest thing was like nutrition. It's like, I'm mentally strong. I can fight through the pain, but when you're working out for 17 hours, I think I burned like 16,000 calories. I'm like, and everything's hurting and you're numb. And like I said, you're focused on like your breathing and staying calm and pushing through is the nutrition. Like you have to eat, you have to hydrate, and they have aid stations along the way. And I remember that's one of the advice they gave me. Like, hey, even if you're not hungry or thirsty, you always take something. So just bananas, water, electrolytes, and they have aid stations along the way. I was just really focused on staying on top of that, because if you start falling behind in your nutrition, and you get dehydrated, then you're screwed. And then there's no catching up to it. And that's when, people cramp up, people on the bike just falling over on the side of the road, grabbing their legs, just cramping up because they didn't stay on top of their hydration. So, honestly, no, it was really, really painful. And my body was destroyed, but I stayed on top of my hydration. And, I had like a fanny pack with electrolyte pills and like, every 40
gel thing.
Yeah, the gels. And, I did a lot of prep work and a lot of research and a lot of reading blogs of people that run them and kind of, I had a good game plan going into it. Every 45 minutes, I had little packets with the electrolytes and the gels. I'm like, every 45 minutes, I have to take one of these packs to stay on top of my electrolytes. Every aid station, either a banana or some type of fruit. I have to go through X amount of water bottles, every hour. And I just stayed on top of that. And I think that really helped me from cramping and getting any injuries. And the rest is just in your head, just pushing through the pain.
Was there anything that was there like one scenario or a couple scenarios that you kept replaying in your head during the time? Like, was there one thing that you were like, this motherfucker, when you're running, something that kept you angry, right? They say work out angry.
Yeah. Yeah, it was all my recoveries from the surgeries. Like, it was just, I was just living at my parents'. I was in so much pain. I couldn't put my shoes on, and I had to take a piss to use the bathroom. It was a hassle. I had to get my crutches and have somebody help me to make sure I didn't slip. And then I had to go in the bathroom, then I had to wait, and it had to help me get back. And I just sat on a couch. I couldn't do anything. And like one of the surgeries, I had this machine where you put your leg in it, and 4 hours a day, every day for like 3 weeks. I had to put my leg in this machine and it would go. All it did was contract and your leg, and just to keep the joint moving, because if it was sat straight,
Like
all the fluid, it would just kind of lift in my leg to like a certain degrees, and then every day I had to increase it a little bit. But just sitting for 4 hours a day with my leg in that machine, not being able to do anything, and it was just driving me nuts, because you know me, I'm an active person. I don't like sitting around and just having to go through those. Yeah, it sucked, and I hated it, and I just was thinking about that the entire time. I'm like, how anxious I was at that moment to get off the couch, and I was like, you know, you wait till I heal up, you know, I'm gonna get out there, and I just kept thinking about that, and
was more part of you thinking, you know, this shit could come back, and I might never be able to do this again.
Yeah, and you know, I'm gonna need lifelong care. Like in my 40s, eventually I'll probably need total joint replacements.
For the knees
and the hips, because there's still scarring in the bone. You know, they're healed up a bit, but they're still scarring. I still have pain. It's nothing to the degree what I was dealing with.
Do you get cortisone shots now?
I haven't. I was before that though. I just, you know, try to watch my diet, which doesn't always happen, but you know, when you're
in a place that makes amazing food.
Exactly. You know, I try to control the inflammation with that, but you know, eventually I'll need care, probably in my 40s. So pretty much going to this doctor was buying me time, because he was focused on joint preservation, whereas everybody else is just like, oh, we're going to replace your joints. And like I said, I was in that Facebook group with, you know, and there's thousands of people from all around the world that have the same thing, and most of them are, you know, they're getting disability, they're on crutches, and they didn't have the circumstances that I had to get the care from this doctor to save my joints. So I was communicating in the group a lot, and like, you know, the day of the race, like they were all behind me, like strangers from around the world that I never met. You know, I kind of felt like when I went out there to do the race, I represented them as a whole. And I wrote a nice message that morning, like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but when I jump in that water, I'm kind of doing it collectively for everybody.
That's very cool.
Because I was one of the few cases where, you know, I didn't get joint replacements, and I ended up with not only with my mobility, but I was still able to compete as an athlete. So I kind of had them behind my back pushing me through the day. And, you know, when I got done, I was, you know, I had all these messages from them, you know, how it was.
Show them the picture, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You know, people I've never met, and I'm still in the group, and I still touch base and talk to them, because 9 out of 10, you know, 99% of those people aren't going to end up how I did, on the better side of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm sure it gives them hope. I mean, even a young guy or someone who's recently diagnosed, they see your story, they're like, you know, there's a chance for me.
Yeah. And I've sent a lot of people to the doctor, like, hey, if the battle is finding the right care. So, you know, I've sent a lot of people to this doctor, and they've gotten a lot of good results from them, you know, just preserving their joint. If you could just buy time, you know, because if I got my joints replaced in my 20s, I probably would have had to have them redone at least 2 times. Because, you know, if you're active, you know, 18 to 20 years, so 20. In my 40s, I probably would have had to have them redone, and then maybe again in my 60s. So,
I mean, I even think about, and I don't have nearly the shit that you got going, but I just had,
no, but we're at that age where, yeah.
2 meniscus surgeries, and they cut it out. And I just, a month ago, I got a cortisone shot. That's why I asked you about it in my right knee. I've been sold for years.
Does it help? The cortisone?
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, it does help. But it's like, I was diagnosed with patella tendonitis.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and he's basically saying I have arthritis in my knee.
Yeah, and it's painful, man.
Yeah, and it's like it never goes away. So I'm taking naproxen, I'm doing the cold plunge and shit, and I'm like, what the fuck?
So do you still have the cartilage in there, or did they just cut it out? Or?
I probably have about 70% in there still, but eventually it's going to be bone on bone. And I'm either going to have to get a replacement meniscus, which is an option, or a knee. I'd like to do the stem cell thing. You know, I was
going to say, you check out Dr. Kamath. He does that, and, you know, he does procedures where they take cartilage from cadaver, kind of like he did with the bone with me, and replaces it with that. Like, his main focus is joint preservation. He treats athletes, professional athletes. Pretty much, you know, he does these complicated surgeries that not a lot of people have experience in, to try to save your joint and buy you time. So, you know, if you can get another 10 years out of your joint before, because once you replace it, every time you replace it, the integrity of the joint is jeopardized.
Yeah, and there's the chance because my pup had 2 knee replacements because the first time they did it, his body rejected it. So then they had to cut him open, take the shit out, do it again.
Then they got to cut it again, and you only get one leg, you know. So the more often,
and it's so long of a healing process.
Yeah, man. So if you can buy yourself time with the original joint, you know, that's the way to go. But you know, it required I had to travel a little bit, and it was you know, tough finding this guy. But you know, I was fortunate, like I said, that we were 30 minutes south of Penn. You know, had I lived in California, I don't know if I would have been able to fly all over here to get these surgeries and then fly back.
He's one of the best in the country.
He has done countless studies on it. He's trained doctors over in Europe to do these procedures because, you know, they're so tough. If you actually listen to one of David Goggins' podcasts, the most recent surgery that he had on his knee, have you read his second book?
Yeah.
Where he talks about the osteotomy that he had.
Yeah, they cut a little.
That's what I had on both of my legs. Oh, and if you hear him describe, he says, you know, he was about to walk out of the doctor's office, and then the doctor's like, well, there is one surgery and a light bulb. And if you remember that part of the book, and he goes back, you know, what is this? And he describes it, and he goes, it's very difficult to do. The results aren't great, you know, but there's a chance. And, you know, Goggins ends up going that route. And that's the same exact surgery that I had on both of my legs.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, high tibial osteotomy, HDO is what they're called.
And he was talking about how he wants to continue to be able to train and joint preservation. So that was your main focus. That's what you wanted.
Exactly. Yeah.
You weren't like, fuck it, I'm just going to get a replacement. I'm going to collect disability.
Yeah, exactly. Which
there's a lot of people I think
most of them do. They don't. You know, I had to pretty much become my own advocate for myself. I had to do a lot of reading, a lot of research.
Do you have to sell yourself? Like, because I imagine this doctor's high demand, right? He's probably super expensive because he's a beast. Did you have to, like, get accepted by him?
Well, really, I was kind of an appealing case to him because, like, oh, you got this guy in his 20s. He's athletic. Most people get it in 1 or 2 joints. Very rare do you have it multifocal, which is what I had. I had a bad and all 4 of my weight-bearing joints. So it's rare to find somebody with both hips and both knees, let alone somebody younger who's athletic. And so I was kind of appealing to him like, hey, like I'm a good candidate for you to do these surgeries on. And if you had good results and, you know, which he had great results. And then I did the triathlon. And that's why they ended up doing the Cleveland Clinic, did a case study that was distributed to like 25,000. On me in particular.
Wow.
I'll have to send you a link to it, but it was sent out to 25,000 physicians and doctors around the world for people to reference.
Reading about Rocco Malin.
Yeah, and it just describes all the surgeries that he did and the sequence of which he did them and how I healed up. And then it mentions the triathlon. He was able to complete a triathlon 1 year later. So I kind of was like a showcase for him, if that makes sense.
So cool. That's so cool. You're a model.
Yeah.
You're a model. You're a doctor model, a surgery model.
Yeah.
Probably something most people don't want to be, but hey.
That's essentially what it was, and you know, so. But
did they take your pictures? Are you like in a textbook? So a bunch of
no, not my face, but there's pictures of my legs and from the surgeries. You know, he took pictures of everything, and in the case study, there's pictures of, you know, my legs cut open and what he was doing and describing everything. Because it's, like I said, it's distributed on this platform, so anyone around the world that's, you know, experiencing this, you know, they're looking for any type of research on it. They could pull that case up, say, oh, here's a guy in the U.S. This is what happened. This is what he did, and these were the results.
So was that, what's it been, 4 or 5 years since that?
December 2018 was my last surgery.
Okay.
So about that, yeah.
So do you have to go yearly or bi-yearly? Like, are you going to see him for like a checkup?
I go once a year. I drive out to Cleveland, and he does usually x-rays or MRIs, depending, and just kind of does a quick little checkup to make sure everything's holding up right. And so I do that once a year, usually around March.
Okay.
I'll drive up there, stay the night, see him in the morning. I'll do x-rays, check me out, and then everything's good to go, and then I drive back home. So I'll keep doing that every year, but
And hope they don't find anything.
Yeah, and you know, eventually they're not going to hold up forever. Like I said, maybe sometime in my 40s, 50s, we really don't know. As of now, I'm doing good, but eventually I'll probably need more care, whether it, you know, starts to, you know, decay more or I get in new areas, but just roll with the punches, you know.
I mean, modern science and movement, you know, hopefully they have better treatments in that time.
Yeah, yeah.
AI's coming.
Hey, oh yeah, man.
It's going to figure all this shit out, hopefully.
It's here, man. It's here.
So that truly incredible story. I mean, that's inspirational. Anybody going through anything. I mean, you listen to that and you're like, I need to stop fucking being lazy and making excuses. Let me get off my ass and do something about this.
Yeah, yeah. It really, you know, the longer you harp on it, you know, things that happen to you that you can't control, the longer you harp on it and wonder why it happened, why me, you're just wasting time. Like, you can't change it. You got to look forward. I'm like, all right, what am I going to do about it? You know, so the quicker you can overcome the fact that, like, all right, this shit happened to me, you know, like, all right, well, what are you going to do about it? You know,
I'm sure there's a lot of denial at first. I mean, before we switch top, like, I mean, you had to have heard the news at some point, and you had to have gotten some sort of depression, I'm assuming, or cried, or whatever the case might be. What was the thing that made you think, you know what, I can beat this shit?
Well, it was like the initial hit was, you know, it pulled me down hard, man. It was like, I remember, you know, when he told me it was in all four joints, that's when it sank in, and everything drained from me. I'm like, oh shit. Like,
you weren't expecting.
And like I said, when that happened, I had already had 2 surgeries on my knee. I already had my ribs taken out. Like, I thought that was in the past, and I'm like, the worst is yet to come. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, so that just completely drained me. And then, like I said, just towards the last surgery, like, I was just so over it, and I was just ready to move on. And so right before that last surgery, where I was like, all right, I don't have anything scheduled after this one. I actually signed up for it before I even had the surgery. Like, it was November, and I'm like, I have surgery in December. So I signed up for the race before I even had the last surgery. I actually have a video on my phone when I came out of anesthesia, and I was just coming to in the bed. I was like, all right, I like made a video. I'm like, all right, now it's time to start training. Like, as soon as I came out of that last surgery, I was just focused. I'm like, on that. Yeah, literally. Yeah. It's literally like that. And that's when things started to shift from, you know, being down in the fucking gutter to like, all right, let's put it in gear and shoot forward. And then I had fun. I just fucking went.
And during all this, was it before or after you also rode across country on a motorcycle?
Yeah, that was
Over 2,000 miles. How many miles was that?
It was 58 or 5,900 miles in a month.
On a motorcycle.
On a motorcycle,
What kind of
yeah.
motorcycle?
It was a 2003 Kawasaki Vulcan Nomad. I still have it.
It was you and your ex-girlfriend.
It was, yeah. We were both.
So it wasn't just you. It wasn't just you. All your butt.
No. We were working down the beach that summer, and I kept saying how I wanted to do this trip, and then, you know, she's like, I'm coming with. So we both finished up our summer jobs and just packed up in the bike and me, her on the back, and fully loaded bike, all the saddlebags, everything. And we just hit the road.
What year was this?
This was 2015.
2015.
So yeah, it was
So
after.
you had a few surgeries.
Yeah, I had my rib surgeries and all that was done, but it was between that and before my knee stuff started.
Yeah. I mean, I watched your journey the whole time, and I was like, holy fucking shit. I mean, I'm just thinking about, like, my butt hurts. You know, he's just dropping.
Yeah.
It looks like you're exposed to the elements.
Oh, I love it, man.
And then your girl's on the back. You know,
yeah.
She didn't drive, right?
No, she just enjoyed the ride.
Did you ever get a flat tire during that time or anything?
No flat tire. Ran into a hailstorm. That was really scary.
Yeah, because you got nowhere to hide. Right?
If you go down like the South and the Midwest, like Texas, Arizona, like the roads there, you see signs where it says next gas station 80 miles. It's just nothing but open road and field. And there's nothing. Uh-huh. So, and you can see the storms coming across. And I actually have a pretty good video of it. We see the cloud coming, and then I start seeing cars pulled over with their four-ways on, and it was probably people that knew what was about to happen. I'm like, what are these idiots doing? And we just kept riding, and then the hail started to come. So I started to slow down, And then it got to a point where we had to pull over, got off the bike, and I had my leather jacket. I had to take my jacket and cover us because the hail was just
Like you're
hitting. We had, it looked like paintball welts. Yeah, it was scary. I was like, holy shit.
What state was this in?
That was in New Mexico.
Okay.
Just coming through a wide open road. So that was a really scary call.
Concussion from that shit.
Yeah, it was.
Did you keep the helmet on?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And just buckled down, and then 5 minutes later it was gone and it passed. And then it was sunny out, and like the weather out there is insane. But got to see the country, man. Like whether it's a bike or car, like I can't recommend that enough. It's just you gotta drive across the country.
Where was your farthest you went West Coast?
So we went all the way out to the Grand Canyon. And by that point, I needed maintenance on my bike. Like I needed tires. My clutch was starting to go. Like, so we stopped in Vegas, dropped the bike off at a shop, and then got a rental car and drove from there out to like the West Coast
While they're fixing
a bike. And then I think spent like 2 or 3 days, and then came back. Bike was good to go. Repacked everything up.
Leave. They're like, car.
Yeah. I went into Death Valley and all that stuff, and then back on the bike, and then that's when the weather started getting cold, so we just kind of went up north and so went down, over, up, and back.
Did you sleep in random hotels each time? How'd that work?
Yeah, we like the Grand Canyon, camped out. Like had all my camping gear. I had a couple friends along the way in Texas to stay with, but other than that, it was literally cheap hotels. Like
this before Airbnb, I think, was invented, wasn't it?
It was kind of right around the time because my buddy was starting to Airbnb as a room that we stayed at. Staying at cheap, literally riding for the day, see as far as we could go, stop.
A nice little crack hotel.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, there were some really, really shady ones that we stayed at. It was, it was like $13 a night. I'm like, oh great, we just need to sleep, take a shower, and then it's like prostitutes and drugs everywhere. I'm like, man, we should have spent the extra $30 and stayed at a Comfort Inn or something. Yeah, and especially out in those Midwest towns and those roads where there's nothing for miles, and you stop at the nearest motel. It's like, where are these people coming from, and what are they doing here? But that's all part of the experience, though, man.
It's hilarious. So when you're riding, I mean, do you guys get in any disputes with anybody else? I mean, during that time?
Not really. No, it was a good trip.
Another biker gang?
No, man, didn't. There's a lot of other bikers on the road. Got to the Grand Canyon, was really cool because there's people from all over, the country that are traveling there. Just talking to people, they're like, "Oh, you're from Delaware? You rode all the way out here?" Yeah. So that was pretty cool. But a lot of it was just open road, man, because the country is huge. A lot of people don't realize it unless you've driven across it. I mean, it's massive. So when you're riding or driving, a lot of that's just wide open highway and land, and then you just come through these big cities. And we stopped in like Charlotte, North Carolina, and like Nashville, and a couple of the major cities along the way. But outside of that, it's just 400 or 500 miles of just open road. I mean, Texas alone.
Oh, you did go through Texas?
Yeah, we went through. Yeah, we went down and then across. Texas alone took the longest because it's just wide open.
There's so many people who live in Texas who are like, I've never been out of Texas because it's fucking huge.
It's huge. I actually had to do that twice. I drove. It has a whole nother story. I don't think I told you that when I had to ground the plane coming back from Mexico last year, and I had to drive back.
No,
that might be a separate podcast.
Okay,
but I had to do it twice.
What, drive through Texas?
Yeah. Last year I did it in a car by myself because I was on a commercial flight and I almost died.
On the plane?
It's a long. If I guess we can talk about that.
Go ahead.
Well, I was in Cabo last September and for a bachelor party, and the last day we all went scuba diving.
Cabo's beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, and I love it there. And flying back, you're supposed to wait like 18 to 24 hours to fly, and ours was 29 hours, so it was outside of the time frame.
Depression?
Yeah, it was the nitrogen. So when you go down, you get nitrogen in your blood, and you need time for those bubbles for your body to burn off and for them to dissipate. And
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I learned a lot. And so we're on the flight, and once we get up to like 25,000 feet, I started feeling weird. So I said to the lady next to me, I'm like, I don't feel right. And then, we get to elevation, and my body went numb. I felt like I was paralyzed. I couldn't feel my lips. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Right. And then I grabbed the flight attendant. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but like something's up. And then, you know, it was like a scene out of a movie. Like, is there a doctor on the plane? And there was. And the doctor comes up and he starts checking me. He goes, you're not doing too good. And then they checked my blood oxygen and it was like 78 or 79. Like it was below 80. And he's like, this should be like 94 or something. And it's like, this isn't good. Like, what the hell's going on? So then it just got worse from there. I got lightheaded and like I was like struggling to maintain consciousness. And then, you know, that's when they realized like, oh, he might be having decompression sickness, which is when you still have nitrogen in your blood and the nitrogen will travel around. It'll go to your spinal cord and affect your cognitive, you know, ability, which is what I was experiencing. Like I couldn't talk and my lips went numb. Jeez. And, you know, the worst case scenario is like you can die from it because you can get an air aneurysm, like the nitrogen bubbles can go to your brain and you have an aneurysm and then you're dead. So it got so bad, they had me lay down on the plane, feet in the air, oxygen on, and the doctor's with me. And he was on the phone with a doctor on the ground. They're like, you got to land that plane now because it's not good. And so they did an emergency landing right over the border into El Paso, Texas. You know, and there's an ambulance waiting for me and they rushed me off the plane, got on an ambulance. They took me to the hospital and they had a decompression chamber, which is what, you know, why they took me to that hospital. And by the time I got to the hospital, my symptoms starting to get better. So I didn't end up having to go into the chamber, but you know,
everybody curse you out when you get
the so all my friends got rerouted to a different flight, and because everybody was so pissed, they're like, you know,
let him fucking die.
Let him fucking die. Yeah, they thought I was just like drunk from Cabo, and then you know when I was at the hospital, and they were describing like, no, you have decompression sickness. Like, when did you scuba dive?
Any of the other dudes?
And no, and two of my other friends that did it with me were on the same flight, and they're like, everybody's different, and your body, you didn't burn off all the nitrogen. And I was like, it was 29 hours after, and they're like, you should spend at least 3 days. And I kept getting different information. Some people, you know, the guy in Cabo said, you know, 24 hours. And then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, the random local in Cabo. I was like, oh yeah, 24 hours. Get on my boat. Let's go scuba diving. Yeah. And the nurse at the hot.
Under the arch?
Right around that area. Yeah. Right. It was right along that wall.
Yeah.
So then when I landed, I was like, they're like, you can't fly for like 3 days. Like, you need to wait this out. And so I was like, I have to get back to work. So I rented a car and I literally drove from like right at the border at Mexico, El Paso, back to the United States by myself. 30 hours. I did 10 hours a day for 3 days.
Fuck.
It was fucking terrible.
Jesus Christ. Dude, I mean, I know you, and you probably felt bad because you got to ground the plane and shit. You probably feel like an asshole. And you're like, I don't fucking know what's going on.
Yeah. But at the time,
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, because I didn't know what would have happened. You know, would it have gotten worse? Could I have died? I don't fucking know. But
so my wife and I went to Cabo in 2012 after I graduated school. And like as a celebration, I finished the college or whatever, right? And so when you get to Cabo, it's beautiful, but we didn't stay at an all-inclusive resort because it was open. It was like where that pier is, if you know where that.
Oh yeah.
You could walk around. Everyone tries to sell you shit.
Yeah.
Farmers market.
They sell you a scuba diving thing, which is what happened to me.
Yeah. So we bought the scuba diving thing. We got the excursion. Here's what they did. All right. So we go out there. We're like, I'm gonna fucking scuba dive. I was in the Navy. You know, I did some training. Yeah. And so we got me, my wife. It's the 6 of us. Here's the training they give you. It's about 45 minutes of this guy where English is his second language. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it is. So he's trying to communicate to us how to decompress. You go down, you go, urgent, you know, and so
that's exactly what it sounds like.
They put the tanks on you. You got the goggles on. You got the wetsuit, the fins, everything. One of the guys that was in our group didn't know how to swim, but his theory was, well, I'll have an oxygen tank and a mask, So I'll just move my legs and I'm just going to be guiding around. But I don't really need to know how to swim because I have oxygen being fed to me. So Brittany and I are moving down because we held like this chain, right? You're going down and you wait and you let it decompress.
Yeah. So you didn't know this guy?
No.
He was just part of the group.
Just a random dude on vacation by himself, I guess, or something. And so we're working our way down, and they show you all the hand signals you do while you're down there and stuff. And it looks clear above water, but the further you get down, the more brown it gets.
Yeah.
Right? And it's hard to see, and there's some good thing there's like a videographer there. And I'm having a great time. I'm moving down there. I got a good seal on my mask. We're moving around. I see Brittany, she's there, we're moving. This guy starts grabbing Brittany, like, because he's like panicking.
That's the worst thing to do is to panic down there, man.
Dude, but then I'm like, okay, we're good. We keep moving a little bit more, and I'm trying to like find fish and shit. And then I turn around and Brittany's gone. I'm like, where the fuck did my wife go? And the guy, when he was panicking, like broke the seal on her mask, so she can't see. The thing's filling up, so she has to like get emergency shot up there. And so I'm still there. I'm like, she's with the guide. I thought she was with the guide. So I stay down there for like another 10 minutes hanging out. I come up and she's like,
oh my God,
so
that is.
like, man, me, I didn't know what was going on.
When you're down there, you can't hear. It's all hand signals, so you're kind of oblivious if there's an emergency or something.
She's like, I'll never scuba dive again. We got the one picture to show her that, and now I'm like, so that was, that's fucking 10 years ago now. But it's like I was like, what if we train in a pool? She's like, no.
No,
I was like, we train in a pool. But it's like, dude, I can't believe they let people. Which is fine, but you get like 45 minutes to an hour of this guy just kind of going over it.
Yeah, it's not like here in the United States. I got OSHA and everybody else like overseeing all the safety procedures. That's exactly, yeah. But dude, that's scary, especially if you have to rush you up to the top.
And like I'm going up there, she's like act like when I get up there, but it was serious. Sorry,
so
serious. It was serious, but it's just like, Jesus, it's crazy. But I didn't even think about the whole decompression and all the chemicals and everything, because we flew. I guess I flew. I don't know, maybe 2 days later or 3 days. I don't know, but I didn't have anything.
Yeah, I guess everybody's different. One of the guys I dove with. Is an underwater welder, so he was a professional. He was certified scuba, so he knew. So I felt safer going with him than the instructor, because there was a couple things I don't remember what in particular that the instructor said, and he pulled us aside. I was like, "Yo, that guy's full of shit. Like, don't do this. Listen to me. Stay with me." And he's an underwater welder. He'd been doing
this all the time.
Yeah, and so I'm like, I'm listening to him.
Yeah.
So he was the one, I was picking his brain about the decompression sickness, and he was explaining. He goes, "That's why you want to wait to fly, blah blah blah." And then we all went up in the plane together, and I was the only one that it happened to. And I guess look at the draw. I don't know, but
I'm glad you were able to land and all that stuff, even though feel like it's
so now I can check off grinding a commercial flight with 300 passengers off my list.
That's fucking crazy. So when you're laying, you said you were like laying in the aisle on the floor, were people like literally?
No, it was like a scene out of a movie. Like I remember the one guy was sitting there and he was like rubbing my chest and patting me like, "Yo, you're gonna be," in the moment it was scary, and then like once we landed, and I got off the plane, people clapped and whatnot, and the biggest part, I didn't know what was going on, because, all this information I know about decompression sickness and the nitrogen, and I didn't know it then. Like, I had no clue. We're leaving Cabo from a bachelor party. So I don't know what's going on the whole time until I get to, the hospital, and then they're like, it's decompression sickness. And I was like, oh, shit. And then I read about it, and now I know all this information about it. I'm like, oh, God, like, that was bad.
Is it similar to how they say they bring fish up? I don't know if you know, but they bring deep sea fish up. They're supposedly it's pushing outward, like they'll explode.
No, I'm not too familiar with that. Is that like that? Or
because the pressure's so intense down, in the deep part of the ocean, that when they come up, it's still pushing out, and there's not.
And there's no pressure there, and that's crazy. Yeah. No, I gotta read about that.
Another thing that you're doing, aside from all this other crazy shit, you also are training as a helicopter pilot.
Yes, yeah. I am.
Why did that start?
I've one of my biggest goals. I always I want like a cabin in the mountains. I love the outdoors. I love, I was in Boy Scouts growing up. I just love being outside, the serenity of just kind of being detached. I'm a social person, but I love just being outside. And I've always wanted property up in the mountains, like a cabin in the woods. And like I always wanted to be so secluded where like I'm like I got to fly a helicopter to get there. So it's something I always thought about. And then I was riding my bike on the canal right by the bridge, and there's a helicopter, that kept flying over it. And I'm like looking at it. And I'm like, let me like this. The thought of having a helicopter was always like, I'm like, that's something when I'm older, like it's down the line. But I was like, well, when I get to the point, if I can ever buy a helicopter, I need to know how to fly it. So I'm like, let me just look into it. And so Horizon Helicopters right in Newark, Delaware. It's 2 miles from my Deli.
Shout out to Horizon.
Yeah, shout out to Horizon. I called them up and I was just, getting some information, and I always thought it was just, crazy long and hard and expensive. And the owner is a veteran. It turns out he gives a discounted rate for first responders and veterans. And so I was like, all right, this might be feasible. And then I got some information on it, and they do like a discovery flight where you go up and you fly for an hour, and just see if it's something you want to do. And I had been in a helicopter before on like a Grand Canyon tour, but that was years ago. It was on the motorcycle trip we did it. So it was been a while. So I went up on the discovery flight and I just fell in love with it. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. Just the freedom, the independence, you're flying over the traffic, looking at people driving to work, and I'm just like
Suckers.
Suckers. I'm like the ability to go anywhere. So I fell in love with it, and I was just, like, how often do I have to go? So now I go once a week. I'd say maybe I'm a quarter of the way there. I have about 21 hours logged. You need 40.
And that's you actually moving?
That's with a certified flight instructor. So the way it works is you have a set of controls and my instructor has a set of controls. Wow. And that's how you learn, you start doing things on your own and he just kind of mirrors you. And then when you start making mistakes, he corrects it. And then you both have the control so you can feel what the corrections are. And he'll wait till I, let you make the mistakes so that you see what you did wrong. So you always have him in control, so you're not going to crash, but you go up, I go up at once a week.
Have you did the actual takeoff part yet?
So the point I'm at now, I'm pretty decent, like hovering, like I can keep it at a decent hover. But flying, like Horizon's right in Newark and we train at the Summit Airport. Once we get up past like the power lines and stuff, I pretty much take it from there. As far as navigating, going in, calling the radio controls, going into the pattern, coming in for the landing. So now the basics of it, I guess,
Are you studying a manual at the same time?
Yeah. So every other Saturday, there's 4 hours of class time that we go to. Because, in addition to knowing how to actually fly, there's
like all this wind stuff.
There's a written test. You got to know about aerodynamics. You got to know about the rules and regulations and the FAA. And there's a lot of groundwork and studying to do for the written exam, in addition to being able to sit down and actually fly it.
Yeah.
So, but I love it. And like I said, I'm at the point now where I'm navigating most of it, and I'm just getting like the more technical stuff down. I come in for landings and slowing down and hovering and getting into the more technical part. But I got about 21 hours so far.
And how many do you need to fly by yourself?
Well, the minimum to get your private license is 40. Most people it takes at least 50, sometimes 60. But the minimum for the FAA is 40. So. And
then what, you take the written test as well?
So then you take, with your instructor, you do some solos by yourself. You do engine failures. You do all that stuff with your instructor. And then once he knows you're good to go, then you do a check ride where the FAA pilot comes out and you pretty much do a check ride with them. And they go through everything, from start to finish. And then if you pass your check ride, then you do the written. And then you pass the check ride and the written, then you get your private pilot's license.
Wow. Wow.
So I'm shooting for like, I'm hoping by next summer I should have it, hopefully.
That's so cool. So
it's
cool.
awesome, man. So then
Malin's going to do air delivery?
we could potentially, man. Yeah, you drop it anywhere you want, man.
Have you had anybody else besides the co-pilot in there with you?
No, just the instructor. Just you and the instructor.
Do you think your dad would go up with you? Do you think
I've asked them. I asked my mom and dad, my sisters. They all say yes, but we'll see when the time comes. Because once I get my license, I can pretty much rent the helicopter there.
Just curious, how much does it cost to rent a helicopter?
Honestly, I don't know. For like I really don't know if I would if I had my private license and I just went to rent it from them, because you got to pay, fuel, insurance. It's not cheap. Probably, I don't know, $1,500 maybe for a rough idea. I could be way off on that.
Yeah. Do you have plans of, I don't know, also doing that for money at some point?
As of now, I don't.
Okay. See how it goes.
Yeah, like right now, my goal is when I get to a point where I have, a cabin in the woods, blah, 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 I just want to have a little personal helicopter that I can ride around and explore. And, if the apocalypse comes.
Do you want to start a doomsday prep community?
I do, actually. Yes. That's
with a moat and alligators?
With a moat, alligators, and a helicopter. So I'm kind of thinking ahead of time, too. If shit hits the fan.
One of those big wooden wheels that curates our water.
I've always wanted one of those, actually. What are they called?
I forget. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've always wanted one of those where you pretty much can run all your power off that.
I'm all about creating underground bunkers and then having places above it as well. My idea is because I've joked about this, but Anton's up in Vermont. Right?
Yes.
So it's real secluded. But if you can get a night buy 10, more like 100 acres, and then but it has access to water. Because eventually the valleys, because I always think either up in Pennsylvania, you get in those rivers, eventually you can get to the Delaware River, and then from the Delaware River to the ocean, right?
Yeah.
So because you want some type of escape route if you absolutely have to.
Yeah, you need a water source and an escape route.
Yeah. But it would be cool. It would be cool.
Yeah, my kind of heads in that direction too. It'd be cool to have a helicopter there too. Like, hey, we're out of supplies. We got to go to that mountainside over there to pick up, whatever it may be.
You know how to do it. You know what I mean? It's like in an emergency situation, you can fly fucking helicopter.
Honestly, when I first started it, somebody asked me why are you training to get your helicopter license? And my answer was, I said, if I'm ever in an emergency situation where my life and the lives of the group I'm with depends on being able to fly a helicopter, I want to be that one guy who knows how to do it. It's like, oh shit, we got to get out of here. There's a helicopter, but the pilot's dead. Anybody know how to fly a helicopter? I'm going to say, I do. And then I'm going to, that was, yeah. Actually, I do too. And they're going to be like, no, and I kind of, when I first started, I was like, I'm not going to tell anybody this. And I'm just going to one day just make a joke hey, I'll pick you up in a helicopter and then just do it. And oh, wait, what the fuck? You know how to fly a helicopter? And just not tell anybody, but I guess the secret's out.
Yeah, well, you should. I mean, it's cool. It's very.
Oh, it's awesome. I love it, man. It's
Do you
my
like
favorite
the guy
part
you're
of the
training with?
week. Yeah, his name's BJ. He's awesome, man. He's very patient. He's a fantastic instructor, man. He's got a lot of patience because, I struggle with a lot of stuff with it, and he's just lets me make my own mistakes and then lets me correct them. And then says, hey, what should you have done there? He's I can't say enough good things about him.
Do you do a simulator first? Like a simulator thing? Like you sit in a VR type thing?
Nope. It's all, like I said, he has a set of controls and I do too. So he just, you're not going to crash. So if you start making a mistake and things start going awry, which it happens, he grabs it, gets it back into control. It's like, hey, you were
get off it, boy. It's my turn.
Yeah. But it's hard, man. It's because you're using both of your feet, you're using your left hand, your right hand, and your eyes, and just everything at once. Do you have to have perfect vision to qualify for this? I don't know about perfect vision, but if you can't have any
contacts,
contacts, I think you can have, but you can't have any deficiencies with with your sight and whatnot, because you have to go get a whole medical where they check you for everything. And if there's a red flag, they'll say, hey, like, you're not going to get medical because your ears or your eyes are bad, but you don't need perfect vision, I don't think.
Okay. And do you pay, I'm not going to ask the cost because maybe Horizon has a deal for everybody, but do you pay like a package deal? Is that what you say? I need 40 hours, I'm paying for 40 hours, or do you just pay by per?
No, it's an hourly rate, and it incorporates the instructing, the fuel, the insurance, but it also what kind of differentiates them from other places is a lot of other places you're just paying and they're just going by the numbers. Like you get 40 hours and then you got to take the written test, and that's kind of all on your own. These guys, like I said, every other Saturday there's a 4-hour class with an instructor who's been flying for 50 years. So he's a world of knowledge, and it's just hands-on. If you got any questions, you just, they teach you everything. And a lot of the places don't offer, like, you're kind of on your own. Like you got to study this book and pass the written, where, that's included in all of that. And some places you got to pay extra for like fuel and insurance, where with him it's like one flat thing, and it covers all that. It covers the classes, and it's kind of all inclusive. And they're just a top-notch, facility. The guys are awesome there, man.
If you're interested in becoming,
and it's right in our backyard,
Horizon.
Right in your backyard, it's right over by Cooch's Bridge.
Okay.
You never see the helicopter taking off from there. So
what's the little, there's the tail and then the other like fan thing that spins behind it. What's that?
With the,
how there's the propeller here, but don't some
the rotor.
Is that what it is? Is that how you can go like that?
Oh yeah. So the rotor. So the tail is what the pedals control.
Okay.
And that pretty much turns you left and right. So basically, the feet turn you left and right. Mm-hmm. The cyclic is the stick in the middle. Okay. That kind of goes the direction. That turns the rotor like this. Yeah. Okay. And then the cyclic is on your left hand, and that pretty much takes you up and down. So the cyclic is up and down. The feet are, turning, spinning the helicopter. So if you're hovering, you push the left pedal and it'll turn the helicopter around like that. If you want to go up, you pull the cyclic up and then you'll take off. And then, the stick in the middle, you're going directional. But it's all at once.
Minimum height like you're supposed to be at? Like,
so we fly... we get to like 1,000 feet, 1,200 feet when we go down to the airport. Flying over the houses in the neighborhoods, you got to be at least 500 feet.
Okay.
So as long as you're above 500 feet driving over like residential or like a beach or something like that, you're good. But, we stick around 1,200 feet when we're going from Horizon down to Summit.
Very cool. I know I've talked to you about this offline. So when I was like 11 or 12 years old, I lived in Villa Belmont, right? Yeah. And so I would go, and this is before I met you, before I knew you even existed. And my friends and we would walk to Malin's Market. And at that time, I didn't have any money. I'm like 12 years old.
Yeah.
I would go into Malin's and I would open up the bottle caps and I would try and get a free Mountain Dew. And I was I would open like 5, 6 at a time and then find one and then I'd buy that one for $1 or whatever. But I did this repetitively, and the people saw me on camera, and the next time I came in, he was like, "Hey, come here. I know what you're doing." He's like, "Why do you keep opening my soda caps?" I was like, "That wasn't me." He's like, "I got you on camera." I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "I saw you. I know what you were doing. Stop doing it." Never called the cops. Never said you're not allowed back here anymore. Never. He was really nice. Just gave me the warning, and I continued to go. For the rest of my life till now. And it turns out it was your dad.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was really cool. I never forgot that. And your dad owns Malin's Market, right? Your dad and your uncles.
Yes, yeah.
And all that sort of thing. And later, when I was 14, I got in trouble for I stole fire extinguishers, okay? And I had to...
Like repetitively, or was it one thing?
No, one time.
Did you have like a fetish where you collected them in your trunk?
So behind my friend Dan's house, they were building this structure. And we were like, what the fuck is over there? And so we were 14, so I was skipping wrestling and practice and stuff, and he was. And we went over there, and another friend and I, not Dan, but he was like, he told me, I heard fire extinguishers could freeze things. So we took these fire extinguishers, we broke into the building, we took these fire extinguishers.
Allegedly.
Oh, we did.
I'm just keeping it covered. You never know.
Yeah.
Statute of limitations, we don't know.
I took the fire extinguishers, and we sprayed them around. They followed us through the woods. They're still constructing this building. It's like a 4-story building. And the owners of the building watched us go through the woods. It's like a half mile back to his house. And so we're spraying them. They don't freeze things. They eliminate the oxygen is what they do. But the owners follow us back to his house, and we're sitting there like, hey, what are you doing? All scared. And he's like, come with me. And we're like, oh. And so they take my friend and I back to this building, and they're like, we're going to call your parents. We're like, okay. But what do you think happened? He's like, they got to make an example of us. So they call the cops. And so I get hit with like this trespassing charge and like minor theft bullshit. And so one of the things that I had to do was I had to go to this Back on Track program, and I also had to do community service. And I did a lot of the community service at the Delaware Food Bank, but another part was at Malin's Market. Your dad allowed me to do some community service.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I knew,
so that was
I knew
really
the soda
helpful.
store, but I never knew that.
Yeah. So he let me do some of my community. I think I had 60 or 100 hours of community service I did. So I thought that was really cool.
No shit,
I
all
was
right.
very grateful for that, because doing the food bank, man, they work you there.
Yeah. What did he have you do? Sweeping?
Mopping, moving like the expired stuff, and he called it, what do you call it? Front facing the stuff.
Yep. You got to make sure the shelves, everything, products rotated and the labels are facing out.
But I was really grateful for that, because the other times my mom would have to go drop me off. It was like a whole inconvenience, but there I could just walk.
You could just walk, get your hours.
Yeah,
and he's looking at it as free labor, so he's probably tickled pink too.
Yeah, he just signed off, he did this. And so that, I always thought that was really cool. I'm very grateful for that. And so now you're not bartending, you're at Malin's. What's going on there?
Yeah, so my dad, my uncles are retired now. Me and my buddy Kevin bought everything over from him about last year. I've been working there for at least 3 or 4 years now, but officially owners as of last year. So
Congrats.
my dad, and thank you. My dad, my uncles are retired, but they're still there working, like I had to call my uncle this morning because
they're legends around there.
We were short.
If you haven't been to Malin's, his uncle, his dad, they're legends over there. Everybody knows them. They've been going there for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, we're one of the few places, local family-owned places still around, because everything now is all cookie cutter, franchise, corporations buying up all the little guys. So we're,
fuck Wawa.
Yes. There's one going up right down the street, but
I saw they're not making the drive-thru.
Yeah, so originally the Boston Market right there was going to be a drive-thru only, and then across the street was the full service where the Friendlies is. And I guess they nixed the drive-thru, but they're still doing the full service.
So, so there's not going to be anything at Boston Market?
No, they nixed the drive-thru idea. That doesn't go to say they might try to put like, a store with pumps there, or I don't know if they own the land. I don't know what. Something's going to come of it, because it's, it's a prime spot and it's been vacant for a while, but just the drive-through idea, they nixed it for whatever reason. I don't know if people complain because of the traffic, because that highway's busy as hell as it is. So having, there's a line out to Dunkin' Donuts drive-through that backs up on 896. So maybe that had concerns with it, but they're still
dangerous. It's a legit, it caused accidents.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's, there's no shoulder on the highway, and you're right between 95 and UD. So you get all that traffic.
It's an off ramp.
Yeah. I mean, look at the huge, job they're doing now, that project, putting the flyovers and the on and off ramps. So I don't know what their plan is now, but they still have one going up across the street.
I don't think you're going to lose any business. I mean, if you want real good food, the best subs, the best breakfast sandwich, you're going to go to Malin's. Wawa is for convenience, but the real people know if they want a real meal, they're going to go to Malin's.
Yeah, we got quality, reputation. Who started it? So my grandfather back in '74, he worked for different. He was a meat manager for several grocery stores, and so in '74, they all pitched in, threw their money together, bought It was a grocery store, Stafford's. Bought the store, sold the house in Wilmington, moved. There's 9 kids. So it was a family of 11, 6 boys, 3 girls, and then my grandparents. They all moved in.
Boomers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. They all moved in a little apartment up there. There's 2-bedroom apartment on top of the store.
Wait, how many people lived up there?
11.
Holy shit.
Grandparents in one room, the girls and 3 girls in one room, and the 6 boys lived up in the attic. And then he was a butcher, so it was like a grocery store, meat market type deal. And then up until he retired, I think in the early 90s. And so once he retired, that's when they kind of got rid of the butcher side of it, and they started doing sandwiches, and then kind of went from there since early 90s, I'd say.
Wow. And what was that building next? Because there used to be a building right next to it for years.
Yeah, so it's
disappeared.
Yeah, it was actually a sandwich shop, and like a year or 2 after my uncle and my dad, they started doing sandwiches. He packed up shop and left. And there's didn't tell nobody, just put a sign on the door that says "Gone fishing," and never showed up, and packed up and moved to Florida. And there's actually a funny picture because it's my dad and my uncle. They're standing in front of that store, kind of going like, where'd he go? Yeah. And there's a sign that says "Gone fishing," and just packed up and left. And that was it. And then the gas station bought it and knocked it down, and that's why it's been vacant ever since.
So does the gas station actually own that property?
Yeah, it's the same realty company that owns both gas stations on both sides of us.
They should give it to you. They should give you that space.
Well, they
sell it to you.
They were trying to buy our building before we were, me and Kevin bought the business over.
Never came.
They were aggressively, and because they wanted to knock it down, and then they'd own that whole corner and build like a big super center, like a Dash-In is their version of it, I guess is what it was. So it would have been another example of the big guy coming and buying up all these little mom and pop stops. So
it's if you haven't been to Malin's, it is a legit mom and pop shop. You go in there. Your dad at least when he was actively working there, he knew my name. He knew my order.
Yeah, they still do. First name basis. A lot of people order. Get that.
They take handwritten orders.
We're on the POS system now.
Okay.
It got too busy. My uncle's the one that made this. That was a tough switch, and that's kind of a lot of like the issues that I'm dealing with is kind of keeping up with the pace of the business, but without keeping the nostalgia of it. But switching from pen and paper to computer was like a huge jump. Teaching these, the girls how to do it, and then it was just, it's a big change. People go from pen and paper to seeing a pad with a screen, but it got so busy. It's tough to keep track of all the orders, and then you got the hot and the cold and the fry. So, you got to split the tickets and just writing it and taping them together. It it got messy. So when he implemented the POS system, it just streamlined everything a little bit.
So it's better.
Yeah, and you can keep track of your sales. You can see what's selling, what's not selling, inventory. Like it really is a no-brainer. You really got to make that step to really be able to progress and move forward because it's just pen and paper is not it.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
It's cool. It's nostalgic, but if you want to keep up with the pace of things, you got to kind of grow with the times a bit.
That's good. You guys adapted. How many employees do you roughly work there?
Now we're up to about 20, 18 to 20.
That's
yeah, there used to be a time back in the day when it was all just like my dad, my uncles, and my aunt, where they were sitting on the back on milk crates and be smoking a cigarette. Somebody walked through the door, they hear the bell ring, and they'd get up, wash their hands, go make a sandwich, cash them out, and they leave, and then they go back and sit back down.
And now you guys are doing you get orders from University of Delaware.
Yeah, the location's huge, being right next to UD. We got a great relationship with the school, football team, field hockey, softball, soccer, baseball. We cater those guys. Like tomorrow morning, the football team's on the road, and I think we have like 140 subs that they need done and on the bus by 10 a.m.
The same sub or
they mix them up. I think there's like 50 Italian, 30 turkey, 30 ham.
When you do that, let me ask something real quick. When you do that many orders, I assume you're making it probably the day before, right?
No, we do it. We do it the morning of.
And do you do one giant piece of bread and then cut them up?
No, it's all individual rolls. So the rolls will get there tomorrow morning. I think we have them coming at 4:30, right from the bakery.
Who's the baker?
Excuse me, Lissio's.
Okay.
We use all Lissio's rolls, and so rolls will get there 4:35. The girls will come in 4:35 and start that order and get it done before we open at 7. Have it in the cooler because
2 hours.
Yeah. You know, that's like a little procession line. You know,
So,
cutting the rolls, fixing them, wrapping them.
Is it okay? So is it like somebody moves down?
We'll do like, you know, we'll line up 10 rolls. One person will throw the meats on. Somebody will put the lettuce, tomato, you know, pop, and then 10 are done. And then somebody's taking those 10, cut, wrap. And while they're doing that, we'll line up another 10 rolls and do another 10. So it's like a little assembly line.
So cool, man.
Because then once we open at 7, it's, you know, full swing. And it's Friday breakfast. It's the busiest day of the week. So just rolls.
Cheese from Malin is delicious. Delicious.
So tomorrow's a long one.
Yeah. What time do you usually get there?
In the morning, you know, we open at 7, usually 5:36. I like to get there, get all my orders done for the day before we open up. And Kevin and I rotate. So, you know, the days that I'm not opening up, I'll go in at either 11 or 2, and then I'll close. And then you're till 10. But some days, you know, open to close, you're there 5, 6 a.m. till 10, 11 o'clock at night. So it's around the clock. It keeps you on the toes for sure. But
that's a good problem to have. It could be not like that.
Yeah. I remember talking to one guy at the register. He said, "Hey, I did business consulting for 40 years. And the common theme is one of 2 problems. Either you have problems from not enough business or you have problems from too much business." And he goes, "You guys have the latter of the 2. And that's the better problem to have." So that's what I always, you know.
I really hope they would give you that piece of property because I know we've talked. You want a bigger parking lot.
Yeah, the parking would be huge because we do a lot of the construction guys, and they're driving trucks and trailers. So sometimes they'll park across the street at McDonald's and walk across, or they'll park in the gas station next door. And
I do that to myself.
Yeah. So I mean, it would be awesome.
I'll buy gas.
Oh yeah. That's what it'd be. You know, watch in the morning. They park over to get gas, come over, get food from us, and then get their gas, and then they leave. But having an extra space or even having some gas pumps would be pretty sweet.
Yeah. I hope you're able to somehow convince them or something like that.
Yeah, I got some ideas.
You put the ice cream window in. The little that's a new addition
for, you know, late night stuff. For picking up, because we close at 8 and a lot of people don't get there till like 8:30, so we can lock the door and then start cleaning up, and then we got the late night window. People can come pick their order up, buy stuff, get ice cream, chips, whatever they need, and then we can keep the door locked.
Are you closed on Sunday?
Still closed on Sunday. Yeah, it's something my uncle and dad did probably
Chick-fil-A style.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. You know, you need a day of rest. You gotta, you know, the girls bust their ass, and you know they need a breather, and it's only time to get anything done if there's maintenance or anything to be done. You need a little peace and quiet. So that's probably going to stay that way for a while.
Why not? I know, like the barbecue, Limestone Barbecue's closed on.
Are they?
Yeah, because they got to clean out.
Yeah. And everybody's like, "Well, with football," I'm like, "Yeah, we would do well with football on Sundays, but you know, like I'm saying,
well enough that you're willing to keep it like that."
Yeah. You need that day in between. You need the day of rest. Give everybody a little breather.
Does Malin's even do marketing like that? I mean, it's just so well known.
No, we really don't. We don't have much. There's no marketing or advertisement, and it's just, you know, that's the one thing you can't buy is reputation. And you know, all the time and the work that my uncles and my dad put in over the years, you know, takes time to build that up, and you can't buy that.
What's it like working with them?
Oh, it's great. It's awesome. You know, when I started working there years back, you know, spent a lot of time with my dad because growing up he was always working. So it's been cool working with him and my uncles, and just learned a lot. And it's fun because we all kind of have the same sense of humor. We all have similar personalities. You know, hardworking, but you know, good sense of humor, and We kind of vibe. Everybody, it's good energy in the store all the time for the most part.
Any fights? Any family fights?
Not me, but I'm sure they butted heads over the years.
In close quarters for hours on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's due to be fights, and then there's drama, and there's a lot of bullshit here and there. But that's I tell when you do. But at the end of the day, you just got to resolve it. And
it's like any business. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How many family members total actually work there?
Well, now, I mean, back in the day, it was, when my grandfather first bought it, it was him, my grandparents, and, there's an old article that they wrote in the paper, and my grandfather says, I don't have to hire any outside labor because of all my kids. So it was all family. It was my grandparents and my aunts and uncles, and then, my dad and 2 uncles were the only ones that, had interest in keeping it as a career, and they're the ones that ended up taking things over. And then, my uncle's wives worked there over the years, like my Aunt Barb, my Aunt Stephanie, cousins here and there. So at one point it was mostly family. Then as we got busier doing sandwiches, had to hire outside help. And now we're at the point where it's me, my dad's still there, both of my uncles to some degree. Jim. So, he does most of my deliveries. So it's great because...
And your uncle's names?
Kenny and Bobby. So, and they're still there to a degree, but kind of helping out when we need them and a couple of days a week. Because when you retire, you need something to stay busy,
For years.
Yeah, exactly. But now they have the freedom, they want to take off, take a trip or vacation, they can do it, if they want to cut back more days and cut on their own schedule, when they want to work, we can use them. They don't want to work, they got the option to do whatever.
And it's good that you guys have employees and family members that you trust, because there's a lot of small businesses, they don't go on vacation. They don't take days off. If they do, the business shuts down because they're afraid that, basically, they don't trust them to get done when they're not.
Absolutely, yeah. They'll just close the door and then until they come back and.
Close.
Yeah.
So, and you guys would lose a lot of money that way.
Yeah, there's too many moving parts that place to close down.
Would be pissed.
Yeah, so we've been doing like on the holidays when it's a Monday holiday, we've been closing Monday and Tuesday. Okay. So we have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So that's something Kevin and I have been doing since we took over, because it gives the girls a nice 3-day break, because it's, Sundays are good, but, they have families too. They need to spend time with their family. And what's that?
I'm not mad at you.
Yeah, and, they're grateful for it. Like Memorial Day weekend, you got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So go to the beach with your family, and they all have kids, and usually after the holiday, it's slow. Like the day or two after the holiday, it's usually slow in there anyway. So it's good time to do it, and you got to take care of the employees too. You got to throw them a bone when you can.
That's good leadership.
Yeah, and they appreciate it and they enjoy it. So,
are you willing to share any ideas you have for the future of Malin's, or is all top secret?
I would say top secret, but the first year was under our belt, and it was a tough transition. I mean, because there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot that we assumed, and like my uncle and my dad did a good job at, kind of tapering, they spent the time. A lot of places they sell, they sell the business and then they just pack up, turn around and leave with no guidance. And I was fortunate where they kind of stuck around and made sure we were successful and kind of eased the way out. So now that's kind of been the last year. So now that we have that year under our belt and, they're pretty much, phased out. It sounds bad saying it like that, but we're on, we don't need the training wheels essentially.
Yeah. But it was also cool how they did that. They made that transition because obviously they care about the business. They want you to be successful. Because like you said, a lot of people they cut ties and done.
Yeah. I was just talking to a guy. I don't want to mention the name of it. But same deal. He had a business for 25 years and he sold it. And the new owners, he tried helping the transition, and even the employees there, he said to the girls, don't do this. And they came in hot and they just switched everything up, changed this, changed that. And he tried hey, don't do this, don't do that. And they didn't listen. And then after 25 years in business, they shut down within a year.
Jeez, that would piss me off. That would piss me off.
Yeah. So now that we have that year under our belt, now we can start kind of looking forward to, what we want to do in the future. So still nothing solidified yet, but that's now we can turn and focus on what's ahead of us now.
Good. And congrats on the business. And, I rave about Malin's all the time.
The show must go on. We just had 49 years. So next August is 50 years. So it's a big milestone.
It's a big, huge milestone.
It's like I said, there's not that many spots anymore out there. Everything's, you drive around, everything's bought up. The properties are knocked down and it's just building huge cookie cutter super centers. Yeah, man.
When you got Malin's.
Yeah.
Fuck Subway. And fuck Wawa.
Damn. There you go. Yeah.
Rocco didn't say that. I said.
No, see, I'd say nothing.
Rocco, thank you for coming in. If you want to donate, Motorcycle Santa, the 5K is the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Yes, Saturday the 25th. Go on the website. You can sign up right there.
MotorcycleSanta.com.
.org.
Yes, sir. .org. We'll pop that up. We'll put the link.
It's going to be a great time. Petting zoo, face painting. There'll be an alpaca there.
And then the actual 12/15 is the actual event. Now, are we stopping it like last year? The first year we stopped, right? And then last year we kind of rode around, and then people were able to drop stuff off at Del Castle or Del Rec the one year.
Yeah, it'll be similar to that. Probably going to cut out a little bit of the logistics of the driving part, because it was kind of drawn out.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah,
and
so
for the police escort, we got to play nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the ride will be not shorter, but not a lot of driving around and waiting around and stretching it out the whole day. We'll probably consolidate it in about 4 hours altogether.
Wow. Okay. So you're gonna, I guess you'll have those details later of exactly where all.
Yes. Yeah. We'll have time frame. We'll be here, and here at this time, and then.
Because there's also I don't know if this is open to the public, so we'll cut this out if it is. But the church, are people allowed to show up there? It's like a little party.
Yeah. So essentially, that's what we hope to do again this year. We had Del Rec, and then we had the church up on 202 that they gave us permission to use, but it's kind of like a stopping point where we can stop, use the bathroom, eat, and then. It's a chance for people to come see everything lit up, everybody in costume and full swing, and
it's so cool.
And it's a mini parade, dancing. We got a DJ. It's a whole parade, and puts a smile on people's faces.
We had a great time.
And you guys showed up. I tell you what, man, I couldn't have handpicked a better film crew, because not only did you show up, dedicate your whole day and your time and your expertise to it, but you showed up in full costume. In elf tights, top, bottom, the whole nine. I mean, you dressed the part, you fit right in, and that was like the best part about it.
It's
and you played character in it, yeah. So that was awesome. I fucking loved it.
It was it's a lot of fun. Donate if you can. Please donate. Help Motorcycle Santa. Rocco, thanks for coming out, man.
Hey, man. It was a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Again in the future.
Definitely, man. You got first one under the belt. Yeah. Let's
Dattie podcast in person. Thank you.
Dattie, baby.